introducing skirts, half the 26 competitors in today's 63-lap Brazilian Grand Prix have qualified faster than Nelson Piquet's 1982 lap record. Reigning world champion Keke Rosberg has qualified his Ford Cosworth-powered Tag Williams fastest with a superb lap over 2 seconds inside the record. But then it's 7 turbo cars. Prost's Renault second fastest, Tombé's Ferrari third, Piquet's Brabham fourth, Derek Warwick a superb fifth in his Tolman, and then our new Ferrari, Patrese Brabham and Chiva Renault. Ninth fastest, Niki Lauda in the McLaren, well ahead of his teammate John Watson, who's 16th, and Nigel Mansell's only 22nd after a very frustrating 2 days.
Aus Brasilien, dem Land des Sambas, des Fußballs und natürlich auch der Formel 1. Brasilien, das ja 2 Automobilweltmeister bereits hervorgebracht hat, mit Emerson Fittipaldi und mit Nelson Piquet. Wir sind in Rio de Janeiro, genauer gesagt 50 Kilometer außerhalb dieser Millionenstadt, die ja für viele die schönste Stadt der Welt überhaupt ist. Wir sind auf der Rennstrecke von Jacarepaguá. Auf Deutsch heißt das ungefähr die Rennstrecke an den Krokodilen. Und wir leben in einer knappen Viertelstunde den Beginn der Formel-1-Weltmeisterschaft 1983. Es ist gleichzeitig der Beginn eines neuen Zeitalters in der Formel 1. Sie wissen ja, das technische Reglement wurde über den Winter geändert. Die Bodendruckautos sind verschwunden. Eine neue Ära im Automobilsport beginnt. Zuletzt hat es ja 6 Jahre lang diese Bodeneffektautos gegeben, die Flügelautos, die begonnen haben 1977 mit dem Lotus 78, einem der genialen Autos des Lotus-Konstrukteurs Colin Chapman. 6 Jahre lang also Autos mit Bodeneffekt und jetzt eine komplett neue Situation in der Formel 1. Ich glaube, dass Sie im Augenblick eine totale sehen mit den Formel-1-Wagen am Start. Im Hintergrund sehen Sie die Berglandschaft von Jacarepaguá. Grand Prix von Brasilien, ein neuer Beginn also in der Formel-1-Weltmeisterschaft. Für die von Ihnen, die es vielleicht noch nicht wissen oder zwischendurch vergessen haben sollten, darf ich ganz kurz die wichtigsten Reglementänderungen noch einmal sagen. Die Schürzen wurden an den Autos verboten. Es muss einen flachen Unterboden geben zwischen den Vorderrädern und den Hinterrädern. Das Gewichtslimit wurde gesenkt von 580 auf 540 Kilo. Es ist notwendig geworden, 50 Zentimeter Schutz für die Beine des Fahrers zu haben. Die Heckflügel wurden etwas nach vorne gerückt, etwas in die Höhe gestellt und sind an sich schmäler. Die Reaktion der meisten Teams war natürlich, dass man größere Vorderflügel montiert hat, um nicht ganz auf den Bodendruck verzichten zu müssen. Es hat 3 Monate hektische Arbeit in allen Teams der Formel 1 gegeben und jetzt zum ersten Mal sehen wir also die neuen Autos hier am Start. 28 Autos am Start des Grand Prix von Brasilien. Erster Lauf zur neuen Weltmeisterschaft auf dem Kurs von Rio Jacarepaguá. Der Kurs ist 5,031 Kilometer lang und wir werden 63 Runden hier erleben. Bei glühender Hitze, heute immerhin noch über 40 Grad an den Trainingstagen, waren es über 50 Grad und man musste schon den heißesten Formel 1 Grand Prix aller Zeiten befürchten. Es hat aber Gott sei Dank für sehr viele Fahrer in der Nacht auf heute ein bisschen geregnet, das heißt, die Temperaturen haben sich dann etwas gesenkt und die Strecke ist auf alle Fälle sauberer geworden. Sie ist nicht mehr so schmutzig wie an den Trainingstagen, was vielleicht für die französischen Reifen von Niki Lauda ein bisschen ein Vorteil sein könnte, weil diese Reifen dafür ja bekannt sind, dass sie sich immer wieder voll saugen mit dem Schmutz auf der Rennstrecke. Im heutigen Aufwärmtraining fuhren die beiden Brabham BMW Turbos die besten Zeiten. Schnellster war Riccardo Patrese, gefolgt von Nelson Piquet und an der 3. Stelle bereits Niki Lauda mit einem Rückstand von nur 4 Zehntel auf Patrese und nur 2 Zehntel auf Piquet. In der offiziellen Startaufstellung, für die das heutige inoffizielle Training natürlich nicht mehr gegolten hat, sehen Sie Niki Lauda an der 9. Stelle. Er steht in der 5. Startreihe neben dem Italiener Mauro Baldi mit einem Alfa Romeo Turbo. Pole Position der Weltmeister von 1982, Keke Rosberg aus Finnland mit dem Williams. Es ist ein Wagen, der ganz im Stil und in der Tradition von Williams ist, ein einfacher, unkomplizierter, ziemlich geradlinig konstruierter Wagen, mit dem Keke Rosberg hier Trainingsbestzeit aufgestellt hat. Erste Startreihe Keke Rosberg auf Williams und Alain Prost mit dem Renault Turbo. Zweite Startreihe Patrick Tambay, Ferrari und Nelson Piquet, Brabham BMW. Dritte Startreihe Derek Warwick und René Arnoux. Im Bild haben Sie mit der Nummer 27 den Ferrari von Patrick Tambay gehabt. Jetzt sehen Sie Nelson Piquet, er ist noch nicht eingestiegen. Und noch einmal zur Erinnerung, das Weltmeisterschaftsklassement von 1982. Keke Rosberg wurde ja durch seinen 5. Platz im letzten Rennen in Las Vegas Weltmeister. Punkte gleich Pironi und Watson, dann Prost, Lauda, Arnoux, Tambay und Alboreto. Das waren die ersten 8 der Weltmeisterschaft 1982. Heuer 17 Rennen auf dem Programm, im Augenblick 2 davon allerdings noch etwas unsicher, und zwar Dijon und Las Vegas. Patrick Tambay, der im Training der schnellere der beiden Ferrari-Fahrer war, schneller als sein neuer Teamkollege René Arnoux, und gestern war Tambay im Abschlusstraining sogar der schnellste, ist aber an die Freitagszeit von Keke Rosberg nicht herangekommen. Hier die Totale der Strecke von Jacare-Pagua, Länge wie gesagt etwas mehr als 5 Kilometer, 15 Mal müssen die Fahrer pro Runde schalten. Im Bild haben Sie einen der beiden Renault Turbos und im Hintergrund mit dem roten Overall, das war Eddie Cheever, der ja auf Renault umgestiegen ist in diesem Jahr. Einer der 3 brasilianischen Fahrer im Rennen ist Raoul Boesel, der hier gerade interviewt wird. Er fährt einen französischen Ligier mit Ford-Motor. Es ist also kein Talbot Ligier Matra mehr, sondern wieder ein Ligier mit Ford. Die beiden anderen brasilianischen Fahrer natürlich Nelson Piquet und selbstverständlich Chico Serra. Chico Serra wahrscheinlich aber nur für dieses eine Rennen bei Aeros als Teamkollege des Schweizers Marc Surer. Bereits in 2 Wochen in Long Beach soll der Ex-Weltmeister Alan Jones zurückkehren und soll für $1 Million Gage bei Aeros fahren. Völlig neue Situation als in der Formel 1. Einer der überraschenden Wagen im Training war der Tolman, den Sie hier sehen. Die Fahrer sind Derek Voig und Bruno Giacomelli. 3 brasilianische Fahrer also heute im Rennen, 3 neue Fahrer in der Formel 1. Corrado Fabi, der vorjährige Formel 2 Europameister, mit 21 Jahren der jüngste Grand Prix-Fahrer. Derzeit dann Johnny Cecotto, der ehemalige Motorrad-Weltmeister. Im Bild aber jetzt der Finne Keke Rosberg, schnellster im Training. Der dritte Neue in der Formel 1 ist Dennis Sullivan, ein 32-jähriger Amerikaner, zweifacher Sieger des Can-Am-Rennens von Las Vegas. Er fährt in diesem Jahr für das Team von Ken Tyrrell. 3 Brasilianer also, 3 neue Fahrer, 9 Fahrer, die ihr Team gewechselt haben, und 4 neue Turbo-Teams. Die beiden Alfa Romeo-Fahrer Andrea De Cesaris und Mauro Baldi haben heuer die 8-Zylinder Alfa Romeo Turbomotoren. Manfred Winkelhock den ATS BMW Turbo und Elio De Angelis hat den Lotus Renault Turbo. Allerdings glaube ich, dass De Angelis sicher nicht mit dem Lotus Renault fahren wird, denn dieser Wagen hat in der Aufwärmrunde einen Motorschaden gehabt. Ich glaube, dass Elio De Angelis, wenn das überhaupt noch möglich ist, in einen Ersatz Lotus Ford umsteigen wird. Ich glaube aber viel eher, dass er am heutigen Rennen nicht teilnehmen wird. Ein Fahrer wurde schon gestern ausgeschlossen von der heutigen Teilnahme, und zwar war das überraschenderweise Andrea De Cesaris, der Alpha Turbo-Fahrer. Er war 12. schnellste im Training, hat aber einen Blödsinn gemacht im Abschlusstraining. Er war sehr, sehr nervös. Sein Teamkollege Baldi war schneller gewesen als er. Es gab Probleme mit dem Motor, mit dem Ersatzauto, und da hat Andrea De Cesaris übersehen, dass er mit einem roten Ampellicht zum Abwiegen befohlen wurde. Sie wissen ja, Gewichtskontrollen hier in Rio de Janeiro während des Trainings, und zwar zum ersten Mal, die Fahrer in den Autos drinnen. De Cesaris hat das übersehen oder auch übersehen wollen, auf alle Fälle erst an die Box gefahren und wurde daraufhin disqualifiziert, damit also De Cesaris auf Alpha heute nicht im Rennen, und nachgerückt ist dann der 27. des Trainings, Eliseo Salazar, mit einem March. Niki Lauda an 9. Stelle im Training. Am ersten Trainingstag hatte er ein Problem mit der Batterie, hat 15 Minuten in der Box verloren. Am zweiten Trainingstag nach 4 Runden Motorschaden, allerdings ein Motordefekt, der sich schon abgezeichnet hatte, weil Lauda mit diesem Motor schon über 500 Kilometer gedreht hatte. Dann der Ersatz McLaren war schlecht abgestimmt, und Lauda hat dann gestern das Training eingestellt, wurde dadurch von 2 Fahrern in der Startaufstellung überholt, hat 2 Plätze verloren. Überholt haben ihn René Arnoux, der neue Ferrari-Fahrer, und Eddie Cheever, der neue Fahrer bei Renault. Minuten noch bis zum Start in Rio Jacare-Pagua. In der Siegerliste des Grand Prix von Brasilien finden wir bis jetzt ausschließlich südamerikanische Fahrer, Franzosen und Niki Lauda. Die Südamerikaner-Siege haben Carlos Reutemann herausgefahren, Emerson Fittipaldi, Carlos Pace und Nelson Piquet. Für die Franzosen siegten Jacques Lafitte, René Arnoux und im vorigen Jahr nach Disqualifikation von Piquet Alain Prost. Niki Lauda war der erste Nicht-Brasilianer in der Geschichte dieses Rennens, der es gewonnen hat, und zwar 1976 in Interlagos. Vielleicht wissen Sie, Brasilien hat zwei Grand Prix-Strecken, Interlagos bei Sao Paulo und Jacarepaguá bei Rio. Zum vierten Mal erleben wir heute einen Grand Prix in Rio. Die bisherigen Sieger 1978 Reutemann auf Ferrari, 1981 Reutemann auf Williams. Das war das berühmte Stallduell mit Alan Jones, mit den Signalen. Reutemann müsste Jones vorbeilassen, die er aber übersehen hat. Und voriges Jahr siegte Nelson Piquet, wurde disqualifiziert und zum Sieger ausgerufen. Dann der Franzose Alain Prost. Zum wahrscheinlich schon vierten Mal startet ein Renault-Fahrer, nämlich Alain Prost, als Favorit für den Weltmeistertitel 1983 in diesem Fall. Und bei Renault ist man der Meinung, man war schon dreimal so knapp an der Weltmeisterschaft, man kann sein viertes Mal eigentlich gar nicht mehr verlieren. Ich glaube aber, dass die Weltmeisterschaft offener ist als je zuvor. Es gibt eine Reihe neuer, starker, interessanter Fahrer-Auto-Kombinationen. Es gibt bemerkenswerte Transfers auch auf dem Reifensektor. Zwei Teams, nämlich Lotus und Brabham, haben sich entschlossen, zu Gürtelreifen überzuwechseln. Wie gesagt, 9 Fahrer haben ihre Rennstelle über den Winter gewechselt und es gibt 4 neue Turbos. Insgesamt haben wir bereits 13 Turbowagen am Start eines Grand Prix. Diese Zahl wird sich natürlich noch in den nächsten Monaten um einiges erhöhen. Startaufstellung. Keke Rosberg mit 1,34,526 Trainingsschnellster. Das ist um 6 Sekunden langsamer als Alain Prost bei seiner Trainingsbestzeit im vorigen Jahr. Prost ist zweitschnellster, Townbay Ferrari dritter, Nelson Piquet Brabham BMW vierter, Derek Warwick, der Engländer mit dem Tolman Haas Turbo fünfter und der neue Ferrari-Fahrer René Arnoux ist sechster. Das sind die ersten 3 Startreihen heute in Rio. Weiter geht's dann mit Riccardo Patrese und Eddie Cheever, Niki Lauda und Mauro Baldi, dann Michele Alboreto und Jean-Pierre Jarier, der neue Fahrer bei Ligier. Dann käme Elio De Angelis mit dem Kolumbianer Roberto Guerrero. Ich glaube aber, dass der Startplatz von Elio De Angelis heute frei bleiben wird. Team Lotus macht weiter. Hier ist De Angelis natürlich noch eingeblendet. Guerrero, dann Giacomelli mit dem Tolman Turbo. John Watson, der Teamkollege Niki Laudas. Raul Bösel war voriges Jahr noch bei March, Teamkollege des Deutschen Jochen Maas. Jacques Lafitte ist zu seinem ersten Formel-1-Team zu Williams zurückgekehrt, nachdem er 6 Jahre lang für Ligier gefahren war. Vielleicht erinnern Sie sich, Lafitte erster Grand Prix 1974 auf dem Nürburgring. Ein Jahr später, 1975, zweiter Platz im Grand Prix von Deutschland, hinter Carlos Reutemann und vor Niki Lauda. 6 Jahre lang bei Ligier gefahren, war der markentreueste aller Grand Prix-Fahrer, ist aber heuer zu seinem Entdecker, zu Frank Williams, zurückgekehrt. Johnny Cecotto fuhr im Training fantastisch, der zweifache Motorrad-Weltmeister, 14-fache Motorrad-Grand Prix-Sieger mit dem Theodore Ensign, schneller als Mark Surer mit dem Eros, dann Dennis Sullivan, der neue Fahrer bei Tyrrell, Nigel Mansell mit dem Lotus 93 Ford, dann Chico Serra mit dem zweiten Eros, Corrado Fabi, der Formel 2 Europameister, der jüngste Grand Prix-Fahrer, jünger als Andrea De Cesaris, der voriges Jahr dieses Primat gehabt hat. Corrado Fabi nicht zu verwechseln mit Theo Fabi, seinem Bruder, der ja voriges Jahr bei Tolman gefahren ist. Dann Winkelhock und Salazar. Winkelhock zum ersten Mal mit dem ATS BMW Turbo. Gebaut hat dieses Auto ein Österreicher, nämlich Gustav Brunner, ein 32-jähriger Steirer aus Köflach. Es handelt sich um ein sehr, sehr interessantes Fahrzeug. Es ist der erste deutsch reinrassige Formel-1-Wagen seit 20 Jahren. Es ist Derek Warwick. Sie sehen, wie man in diesem Team das Problem des neuen Reglements gelöst hat. 2 Heckflügeln und keine Probleme bei der technischen Abnahme. Die meisten Autos, Sie werden das später sehen, haben Zigarrenform. Der breiteste Wagen ist Niki Laudas McLaren und natürlich auch der zweite Wagen von John Watson. Relativ am wenigsten verändert schaut der Lotus aus. werden bei Temperaturen von über 40 Grad die 25 Fahrer noch auf eine letzte Aufwärmrunde geschickt. Die Grand Prix-Saison 1983 beginnt. Schauplatz Rio Jacarepaguá. Zum 4. Mal Schauplatz des Grand Prix von Brasilien. Enormes Publikumsinteresse, nicht nur in Brasilien, sondern auch weltweit. Die Reglementänderung hat für den Formel-1-Sport sicherlich sehr, sehr viel Gutes getan. Man spürt am Echo in der ganzen Welt. Links vorne haben Sie den trainingsschnellsten Keke Rosberg, neben ihm Alain Prost. Sie sehen, wie verschieden die Autos ausschauen. Es gibt nicht mehr diese Einheitskombinationen. Rosberg, Prost, dann Tambay, Piquet, Voigt, Arnoux, Patrese, Chiva und an der 9. Stelle Niki Lauda. Lauda war, wie gesagt, heute Vormittag im Aufwärmtraining drittschnellster hinter den beiden Brabham BMW Turbos. Ich glaube, dass beide Brabham-Fahrer, sowohl Piquet als auch Patrese, irgendwann im Verlauf dieses Rennens an die Box kommen müssen, nachtanken. Das war ja voriges Jahr die Regel bei fast allen Grand Prix-Rennen, zumindest bei den Grand Prix-Rennen, bei denen Piquet und Patrese die Halbdistanz in einem Weltmeisterschaftslauf überstanden haben. Ich glaube, dass auch bei Keke Rosberg und Williams heute ein Trick versucht wird, dass man versuchen wird, bei Halbzeit an die Box zu fahren, aber das weiß eigentlich niemand genau. Strengste Stillschweigen im Team von Williams. Möglicherweise wird Rosberg also nur mit halbleeren Tanks ins Rennen geschickt und wird dann bei halber Distanz an die Box kommen und nachtanken, aber das können wir dann erst sehen, wenn es soweit ist. Am Saisonbeginn versucht natürlich jeder, jeden mit irgendeinem Trick hineinzulegen, zu irritieren, einen Trumpf auszuspielen. Es würde mich, wie gesagt, nicht überraschen, wenn beide Brabham-Fahrer, Piquet und Patrese und vielleicht auch die beiden Williams-Fahrer Rosberg und Lafitte etwa bei halber Distanz zum Nachtanken an die Box kämen. Allerdings kommt ein Problem dazu. Ein Fahrer, der an die Box fährt bei den heutigen Temperaturen, wird es natürlich sehr schwer haben, wieder in den Rhythmus zu kommen und sich wieder an den Rhythmus des Rennens zu gewöhnen. Niki Lauda hat gestern einen echten Härtetest gemacht beim inoffiziellen Vormittagstraining. Er ist volle 1,5 Stunden in seinem Auto geblieben, auch bei dem Boxenstopp nicht ausgestiegen. Er wollte einfach sehen, wie er mit der Hitze in Jacarepaguá, die natürlich in einem stehenden Auto noch weitaus größer ist, durch den Hitzestau als in einem fahrenden Auto, das vom Fahrtritt etwas gekühlt wird, wie er diese Hitze durchstehen kann. Sehr interessante Perspektiven. Das ist gerade Tambay. Und hier haben Sie Niki Laudas rot-weißen McLaren mit der Startnummer 8. Neben ihm ein anderes rot-weißes Auto. Das ist der Alpha vom Euro Racing Team, gefahren von Mauro Baldi. Baldi war einmal Formel 3 Europameister, Formel 3 Sieger in Monte Carlo. Beim Training schneller als sein prominenter Teamkollege De Cesaris und steht immerhin neben Niki Lauda in der 5. Reihe. Eine der großen Überraschungen hier, Derek Voigt mit dem Toleman Hard Turbo, Startnummer 35, war zweitschnellster im Jänner bei den Testfahrten, wurde erst in den allerletzten Trainingsrunden von Alain Prost überholt, war schnellster am vergangenen Wochenende bei den Testfahrten. Allerdings muss man sagen, dass die Pirelli-Qualifikationsreifen um ungefähr 3 Sekunden schneller sind als die Rennreifen der Italiener. Das könnte sich also im Rennen natürlich auswirken. Wir haben selbstverständlich auch heute in Rio de Janeiro einen Ampelstart.
On the left, Rosberg. On the right, Prost. Behind Rosberg is Tambay. Behind Prost is Piquet. Watch for the lights appearing. The red, and then a few seconds later the green into 63 laps. A superb start for Keke Rosberg. Patrese well up, but Keke Rosberg leads into the Ritorno, the first right-hander, followed by Alain Prost, with Nelson Piquet closing. They go up to Pache, the left-hander, and now Prost has got Nelson Piquet right behind him. Then it's Tambay, then it's Prost, then it is René Arnoux, but look at the lead that Keke Rosberg has got, and De Angelis appears to be in the race after all. We expected Elio De Angelis not to start after blowing up his Renault engine in the Lotus, but he is definitely in the race. And Prost is leading by a long, long way on lap 1. It's much further than it looks on your screen. It's Rosberg leading, then Prost goes through with Piquet in 3rd position and Patrese in 4th place. Correction there, Keke Rosberg, the world champion, who only won one Grand Prix in 1982, the Swiss Grand Prix at Dijon, is well away now. He's running on half tanks, he's running on comparatively soft cars. It is 95% certain that he's going to come in and make a fuel stop, because if he doesn't, he's not going to finish the race distance. There's Rosberg. Prost is 2nd, Piquet 3rd, Patrese is 4th. So it's a Renault in 2nd place, the Tag Williams leading. There on the left is Nelson Piquet, who won Brazil last year, but was then disqualified, and Rosberg completes the lap with Prost, Piquet, then the 2nd Brabham BMW for Patrese, then the 2 Ferraris, Tombe and Arnoux, then Eddie Cheever. So the turbo cars are packing the running order at the present moment. It's very, very hot here at the Jacaré-Pagois circuit as we look at the 2nd, 3rd and 4th men. Alain Prost in the Renault, Nelson Piquet 3rd and Riccardo Patrese 4th.
Yes, Keke Rosberg's really got off like a hare, but of course this is what he needs to do if he's going to make his pit stop. They did a rehearsal this morning of their pit stop, the Williams team, and it wasn't great. They were about 10 seconds slower than the other teams who were also practicing their pit stopping ability. And here comes Piquet pulling out to go past Prost, and Patrese is trying to go with him, but he doesn't quite make it, hasn't quite got the space, so Piquet moves up to 2nd place. Great excitement amongst the Brazilian crowd, and straight away Piquet's pulled quite a little lead on Prost, so I think Prost may be considered to be holding the Brabhams up just a little bit.
Yes, the gap between Keke Rosberg and Prost at the point where they passed here was 3 seconds. Now watch Nelson Piquet coming out of Prost's slipstream with Patrese closing up to where Piquet was. Nelson Piquet in the superb 1983 Brabham BMW. There he is, the man who won here last year, only to be disqualified. And the gap between Piquet and Prost, with now Patrese challenging, was only 1 second, and Riccardo Patrese goes up into 3rd position. So the brand new Brabham BMWs are now 2nd and 3rd. Riccardo Patrese, who won the Monaco Grand Prix in 1982, his only Grand Prix victory, is chasing now his teammate, 1981 world champion Nelson Piquet.
Piquet, Patrese, Prost. Die Brabham BMW BC52 BMW sind natürlich völlig neue Autos. Der Renault ist noch nicht der neue RE40, der wahrscheinlich erst in Long Beach in 2 Wochen sein erstes Rennen fahren wird. Es ist ein modifizierter Vorjahrswagen. Man hat einfach die Schürzen weggerissen und man hat einen flachen Unterboden geschaffen. Man hat das Gewichtslimit etwas, das Wagengewicht, wollte ich sagen, etwas heruntergesetzt. Niki Lauda liegt an 11. Stelle. 18. vor ihm Mauro Baldi, 15. hinter ihm John Watson. Rosberg, Prost, also Rosberg, Piquet, Patrese, 4. Prost, 5. und 6. die beiden Ferrari-Fahrer Tombe und Arnoux, dann Cheever, Warwick, Baldi, Lauda und Watson. Für die Schweizer Zuschauer Marc Fuhrer an der 14. Stelle. Mit mit einem Rückstand von 15 Sekunden auf den führenden Keke Rosberg. Vorsprung von Rosberg auf Piquet 3,6 Sekunden. Dann knappe 2 Sekunden zwischen Piquet und Patrese. Lauda ist auf den 11. Platz 14 Sekunden hinter dem führenden Keke Rosberg. Allerdings der Vorsprung des Williams-Fahrers auf die Bretten BMW-Fahrer wird jetzt langsam, aber sicher geringer. Hervorragend sind jetzt die neuen Grand Prix-Fahrer. Johnny Cecotto liegt an 15. Stelle und Dennis Sullivan ist 16. Rosberg, der Weltmeister mit dem Williams. Das ist zum ersten Mal seit dem Grand Prix der Schweiz im französischen Dijon, den Rosberg ja gewonnen hat, zum ersten Mal in einem Grand Prix. Das ist eine sehr schöne Art natürlich für den Weltmeister des abgelaufenen Jahres, eine neue Saison als Trainingsschnellster und Führender gleich zu beginnen. Allerdings, Sie sehen, dass Piquet immer näher an Keke Rosberg herankommt. 2,2 Sekunden zwischen Rosberg und Piquet. Dritter Patrese minus 5, vierter Prost minus 10, fünfter Trambé minus 14, sechster Arnaud minus 17, siebter Cheever minus 18, achter Baldi minus 19, neunter Warwick minus 20 und zehnter Lauda minus 20,4. Dahinter haben wir Charrier, Fura, Guerrero, Cecotto, Sullivan, Lafitte und Bösel. Niki Lauda, Kollege also weit zurückgefallen. Beachtlich der 12. Platz des Schweizers Marc Fura mit dem Aero. Fura ist nicht gesund, er hat etwas Schlechtes gegessen, er war gestern den ganzen Tag schlecht. Er hat das Spital hier auf der Strecke besuchen müssen, hat Anzeichen einer Magenvergiftung gehabt, aber er hat sich qualifizieren können und liegt, wie gesagt, im Augenblick an der 12. Stelle. Rosberg führt 2,28 Sekunden vor Piquet, dann 5,40 zurück Patrese, 10,44 Prost, 14,86 Trambé und 17,16 Arnoux. Die weiteren Rückstände Cheever 18, Baldi 19, Warwick 20 und Lauda 20,4. Niki Lauda ist also 10. Hinter ihm Charrier, Fura, Guerrero, Cecotto, Sullivan, Lafitte und Bösel. Im Bild hatten Sie kurz den Österreicher. Piquet längst im Windschatten des führenden Rosberg. Ich glaube, auf der Geraden wird sich jetzt bald der PS-Überschuss von Piquet bemerkbar machen müssen. Ungefähr 500 PS. Der Ford Cosworth 8-Zylinder von Keke Rosberg mindestens 600 PS bei 1,9 Bar Ladedruck der BMW Turbo von Nelson Piquet. An sich wollten die Ford Cosworth-Fahrer ja hier mit dem neuen Kurzhuber von Ford Cosworth fahren. Dieser Motor ist nicht rechtzeitig fertig geworden und hat auch die nicht erhoffte Leistung gebracht. 4 englische Teams haben je 50.000 Pfund, das sind fast 1,5 Millionen Schilling, in die Entwicklung dieses neuen Kurzhubers gesteckt. Blick in den Rückspiegel von Keke Rosberg, wie nahe ist Piquet schon herangekommen. Sehr, sehr nahe, Sie sehen nur noch 2 bis 3 Wagenlängen.
John Watson is now past Mario Baldi in the Alpha, and has closed right up on Eddie Cheever in his Renault. And I would say that at the moment, Watson is probably the quickest man on the circuit if he can only get the space to move. But he's in amongst the turbos, makes things very, very difficult for him to pass them with the limited power, relatively speaking, of the Ford Cosworth engine that he's got.
The ice-cool Keke Rosberg driving in his 51st Grand Prix against ex-world champion Nelson Piquet, and this is where the lead could change. Nelson Piquet is right under the rear wing of Rosberg, and he comes out and the crowd goes mad, and Piquet leads. Nelson Piquet on lap 7 out of 63, to the delight of the Brazilian crowd, not surprisingly, because there is the man from Brasilia in the lead. And let's look at it again with Patrese in third position. Piquet comes out, lots of welly, down goes the right foot, blast of turbo power, and the Brabham BMW surges past the Tag Williams car of Keke Rosberg. But will Nelson Piquet be able to keep going?
Piquet ist in Brasilien leider nicht annähernd so populär wie Emerson Fittipaldi, der zweifache Ex-Weltmeister. Der Grund ist wahrscheinlich der, dass die Fittipaldi Formel-1-Siege für die Brasilianer völlig neu waren. Das Publikum konnte sich so richtig daran begeistern. Aber was immer Piquet in den Jahren darauf erreicht hat, die Leute haben immer gesagt, das ist alles schon da gewesen. Das hat schon Fittipaldi erreicht. Fittipaldi hat sein Fittipaldi-Team aufgelöst. 6 Autos sind noch zum Verkauf ausgeschrieben in England, kosten ungefähr 100.000 bis 150.000 Pfund. Macht also etwa 300.000 bis vielleicht 420.000 Schilling. Das ist Silvia, die Freundin von Nelson Piquet. Voriges Jahr hat sie ihm erste Hilfe hier leisten müssen, gemeinsam mit Keke Rosberg, als Piquet bei der Siegerehrung zusammengebrochen ist. Piquet hatte voriges Jahr sehr viel Bodybuilding-Training absolviert, hat wahrscheinlich die falschen Muskeln gehabt, hat nicht genug Sauerstoffreserven gehabt. Und das ist der erste Boxenstopp. Michele Alboreto mit dem neuen Tyrrell, Sie sehen es vielleicht an den Farben, ein grüner Tyrrell. Michele Alboreto, wo ist der Italiener gelegen? Nicht sehr weit vorne, ich glaube an der 21. Stelle. Michele Alboreto im umgebauten Tyrrell des vorigen Jahres. Der neue Tyrrell wird wahrscheinlich erst beim englischen Grand Prix in Silverstone zum ersten Mal zu sehen sein. Ich wollte jetzt sagen, Piquet ist körperlich in weitaus besserer Verfassung als vor einem Jahr. War wochenlang Skilaufen in Österreich, hat sich eine Bombenkondition dabei antrainiert. Nach 7 Runden Piquet 1,9 Sekunden vor Rosberg, dritter Patrese minus 3,9, vierter Prost minus 15,4, fünfter VP minus 21, dann sechster Arnoux 24, siebenter John Watson minus 27, achter Eddie Cheever minus 27,5.
And the gap between Piquet and Rosberg is now 2.7 seconds, and the gap between Rosberg and Patrese there is 0.85 seconds. And Watson is taking Arnoux, and he's done it. John Watson, no, he's not. He's dropped back again. John Watson in 7th place. There is the battle for 7th place between Watson on the left and Arnoux in the Ferrari on the right.
Yes, I don't think it'll take him long to get by. In fact, he's done it. There goes Watson into 6th place. He's absolutely flying. He will now, just watch him. He's going to walk away from Arnoux. Next victim is Tambay, and here's Patrese having a go at Rosberg, but he's not quite close enough yet. So not this time, but it looks as if Rosberg's command is being eaten into. But Watson is without any doubt the man on the circuit to watch.
Etwas verschalten hat. Rosberg konnte auf alle Fälle vom Brabham BMW wieder wegfahren. Rosberg vor Patrese. Die meisten Fahrer haben Luftschläuche, mit denen sie Frischluft unter den Overall bekommen. Sehr viele Fahrer haben Trinkflaschen im Cockpit. Rosberg nicht, weil im voriges Jahr hier ein Missgeschick passiert ist. Er hat in der ersten Runde das ganze Trinkwasser verschüttet, und zwar unter dem Sitz hat er das ganze Rennen hindurch nichts mehr zu trinken gehabt. stark fährt Lauders Teamkollege John Watson. Beim Training nur an der 17. Stelle und ist jetzt, seit er Arnoux überholt hat, bereits Sechster. Jetzt ist auch Derek Voigt vorbeigegangen, und zwar an Eddie Cheever. Voigt damit 9., Cheever 10. Ich habe Ihnen gesagt, die Rennreifen von Derek Voigt sind um ungefähr 3 Sekunden langsamer als die Qualifikationsreifen. Das ist der Grund, warum dieser Fahrer beim Testen und natürlich auch im Training so hervorragende Platzierungen erreicht hat. Immerhin 5. Platz in der Startaufstellung, und warum er im Rennen bis jetzt nicht diese erwartete Rolle spielt, im Augenblick 9. Platz. Derek Voigt, der Fahrer, der im englischen Grand Prix in Brands Hatch vorigen Sommer so lange, ich glaube 20 Runden, hinter Niki Lauda an 2. Stelle gelegen ist, nachdem er fast mühelos an dem damaligen Ferrari-Fahrer Didier Pironi vorbeigehen konnte. Immer noch das Duell Rosberg gegen Patrese um den 2. und 3. Platz. 4,4 Sekunden hinter dem führenden Piquet, aber mit 15 Sekunden Vorsprung auf den 4. Platzierten Alain Prost. Sehr stark fahren die beiden Enza in Theodore. Roberto Guerrero ist 14. Johnny Cecotto 15. Noch vor Jacques Lafitte an 16. Stelle. 17. dann Raul Boesel, der Brasilianer, mit dem 2. Ligier, Teamkollege von Charrier, der vor einigen Runden Lauda überholt hat. Das ist der harte Kampf im Mittelfeld. Cheever, Charrier, Lauda, Sura, Guerrero, Cecotto und Lafitte. Ich glaube, dass Rosberg das Duell um den 2. Platz gegen Patrese gewonnen hat. Patrese wird immer langsamer. Der Motor klingt nicht mehr sehr sauber. An 3. Stelle in diesem Pulk sehen Sie Niki Lauda, Cheever, Charrier, Lauda, hinter ihm Sura, Guerrero, Cecotto und Lafitte. 8 Autos innerhalb von 4 Sekunden. Hier sehen Sie, Rosberg hat wieder etwas Luft. Patrese ist deutlich zurückgefallen. Watson bereits an 5. Stelle. Er hat den besseren und schnelleren der beiden Ferrari-Fahrer Patrick Tambay überholt. 1. Piquet, 2. Rosberg hier im Bild. 3. Patrese, 4. Prost, 5. Watson, 6. Tambay, 7. Arnoux, 8. Baldi, 9. Voigt, 10. Cheever, 11. Charrier, 12. Lauda, 13. Sura, 14. Guerrero, 15. Cecotto und 16. Lafitte. Den Kampf um den 10. Platz im Augenblick beherrscht von Eddie Cheever, haben Sie ja vorhin im Blick gehabt. 8 Autos innerhalb von 4 bis 4,5 Sekunden. Und mittendrin Niki Lauda, 3. in diesem Pulk, 12. im Gesamten. Hier sehen Sie wieder vorne Eddie Cheever, der neue Fahrer von Renault. Dahinter Jean-Pierre Charrier mit dem Ligier Ford. Lauda, Sura, Guerrero, Cecotto und Lafitte. Runden von 63 Runden sind absolviert. Lauda an 12. Stelle, 13. hinter Charrier, 13. vor Sura. Das ist der Abstand von 2 bis 3 Wagenlängen. Hier noch einmal. Cheever, Charrier, Lauda, dahinter Sura, Guerrero, Cecotto und Lafitte. Vor diesem 7er Pulk ein Dreikampf Arnoux, Baldi, Warwick.
10 degrees. There was some rain last night, a bit of cloud cover today, and it's really much more humane conditions for the 4 drivers to work in.
And I must tell you that for me at the moment, the man of the race is not Piquet as Jerier challenges Cheever again. It is Johnny Cecotto, the Venezuelan ex-double world motorcycle champion. There's Piquet leading, and Cecotto in his first Grand Prix is in 15th, 14th position ahead of his teammate Roberto Guerrero, and it looks as though the Brabham team there are getting ready for their pit stop. There are those distinctive overalls, and you can see all the pit gear there to come in, the fast change tyre equipment and the fast fuel petrol equipment. And 25 gallons can go in, and 4 wheels and tyres can be changed in 14 seconds. And that is the Williams team. We've never seen this before. Those are the Williams mechanics, because it is certain that Keke Rosberg is going to come in and change tyres and wheels and refuel. And with now, seemingly, Riccardo Patrese dropping right back, it's going to be absolutely critical for the leadership between Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW. And look at this, there's Cheever and Jerier and Niki Lauda going through, and Mark Schurer closing right up. Well, marvellous scrap all the way down through the field as Alain Prost there, number 15 in the yellow and white turbo Renault in 4th position. Ahead, I know he's ahead of Patrese now. There is Patrese, car number 6. So Prost has gone to 3rd. And on lap 14, the race order is Piquet leading, Rosberg is in 2nd place, and John Watson has gained another place there. Rosberg 2nd, and Prost is 3rd. Patrese is 5. Watson's going through there, and he's up into 4th position.
Yes, that was just the replay of Watson passing the stricken Patrese, but he's now right behind Alain Prost, and I would say very soon in a position to take over 3rd place if he can just handle that extra power of the turbocharged Renault. But at the same time, he's about holding station with the leaders. He's now 34 seconds behind Nelson Piquet. He'd like, I'm sure, to get Prost out of the way. Prost will be a hold-up to him as long as he's behind him, and then he's got a big gap once he can get past Prost to set off after Rosberg, which is when he'll really be getting his feet into the straight.
Lap 15 out of 63, and in this terrific Brazilian Grand Prix, in the lead is Nelson Piquet. In 2nd position is Keke Rosberg. Up into 3rd place, Alain Prost. Up into 4th place has gone John Watson. In 5th position, it is Riccardo Patrese who is dropping back. And in 6th position, it is Patrick Tambay. And there is Nelson Piquet now lapping Manfred Winkelhock in the new turbocharged BMW-powered ATS. Piquet with the new Brabham BMW designed by Gordon Murray is driving absolutely superbly. Now, I am not going to say he is in a class of his own here at the Jacaré-Pagua circuit, because behind him, Keke Rosberg is driving an absolutely magnificent race. He's dropping back, admittedly, and the gap now between Piquet and Rosberg is 8.7 seconds.
Hinter ihm Chico Serra mit dem Eros. Serra fuhr ja die letzten 2 Jahre für das Fittipaldi-Team, ist durch den Konkurs dieser Mannschaft arbeitslos geworden. Neue Situation also. Niki Lauda nach 14 Runden an 10. Stelle, 3 Sekunden hinter René Arnoux, der 9. ist, und 3 Sekunden vor Eddie Cheever. Niki Lauda hat es also geschafft, einen Turbo zu überholen, den Renault Turbo von Eddie Cheever. Nach 14 Runden führt Nelson Piquet mit 8,5 Sekunden Vorsprung auf Keke Rosberg. Dritter ist Alain Prost, minus 34. Vierter John Watson, minus 34,5. Fünfter Patrese, minus 39. Sechster Tom B, minus 44. Siebenter Baldi, der hervorragend fährt mit dem Alfa Romeo 8-Zylinder Turbo, minus 54. Achter Derek Warwick mit dem Pullman Haas Turbo, minus 54,4. Neunter Arnoux und zehnter Lauda. John Watson greift Alain Prost an, wird, glaube ich, bald Dritter sein. Und ein paar Sekunden dahinter, nämlich ungefähr 20 Sekunden später, hat Niki Lauda bereits dem neuen Ferrari-Star René Arnoux das Duell angeboten. Zuerst aber noch der Zweikampf Prost gegen Watson. Prost Dritter, Watson Vierter.
Very frustrating for Watson. He's got to work out a way soon. This is going back onto a twisty section of the circuit. He can have a go here. He's having a go, and no, not quite. He's having a little look, but as I said before, Prost won't make it easy. We've got a short straight coming now, and right angle left. No, that's right. No, not close enough. This is a worrying time for Watson, because all the time he's busy doing this, Piquet, of course, is extending his lead and opening it up. And that is probably of more importance to Watson than the immediate problem of Alain Prost, who hopefully only constitutes a temporary problem.
Let us not forget either that the first two turbo cars, Piquet and Rosberg, are going to have to come in and refuel. We don't know the situation with Prost, and through to third place goes John Watson. Magnificent. James.
Yes, marvellous piece of overtaking that by Watson. He fainted one way coming around the previous corner. Here we see it again, and he dives inside Alain Prost, and that is the Renault problem dealt with as far as John Watson's concerned for this race, I'm quite sure. Now, Watson is about 37 seconds behind the leader.
That's Roberto Guerrero into the pits. The Colombian driver. It looks as though they're not too clear about why he has come in. But meantime, while the Theodore team last year, Roberto Guerrero drove for the Ensign team, and we look now at certainly the man of the race, because he's displaced Johnny Cecotto from my affections now, John Watson, who has come up from 16th to 3rd. And as I was saying, let us remember that the two cars in front of John Watson are certainly going to have to stop, whereas John Watson is not going to have to stop. He has enough fuel to last in the race. His tyres look good for the full distance of 197 miles. And John Watson, in his 138th Grand Prix, is chasing this man, Nelson Piquet, number 5, in his 64th Grand Prix, and the gap between them is about 30 seconds.
Yes, Watson has now got a very big gap in front of him, so we can see just how he settles down. When he finally got past Alain Prost, he was approximately 40 seconds. That was Bernie Eccleston sitting in the pit, the boss of the Brabham team and the mentor of Cooper. Watson's got 40 seconds behind Piquet, and now that he's on a clear track, we should be able to see if he's running well on his own as fast as Piquet on the road. Because he'll actually need to close up a little bit. Piquet's overall pit stop time would be, with accelerating and decelerating and accelerating away, probably just under 40 seconds. So Watson is in a theoretical close situation.
That is Bruno Giacomelli's Toleman, the Italian ex-Alfa Romeo driver who has changed to the Toleman team this year, who had an awful lot of trouble in practicing, has retired from the race, and now on lap 19 out of 63, Nelson Piquet leads Keke Rosberg by 12 seconds. John Watson is some 30 seconds behind Rosberg. Then, as you see, Alain Prost in the Renault, Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari, Mauro Baldi in 6th place in his first race for Alfa Romeo, and there is, in the second of those two cars, Nigel Mansell, who is chasing Danny Sullivan, the American driver in his first Grand Prix, driving for the Benetton Tyrrell team. Danny Sullivan, who won the Can-Am race at Las Vegas, Caesars Palace at the end of last year, ex-Formula 3 driver, a lot of experience, and he's been around the racing scene for a long time. He's 33 years old, and now he's got his chance, and he's making good use of it. He qualified extremely well, did Sullivan, about halfway up the field, and we're looking down the straight now, and I tell you that on this lap, which is lap 19 out of 63, with Cheever there going through, he is in 11th position, and Sura is taken him in the arrows. Now, the Renaults are not going at all well in comparison with the past, and into the pits comes Patrese. Patrese is out of the running, so on lap 19, Piquet leading, Rosberg second, Watson third, Prost is fourth, Tambay is fifth, Mauro Baldi is sixth, and there in the pits is Riccardo Patrese, sadly shaking his head and waving his hands, and you will see that there is no fuel being put in. The mechanics have not got their flame-proof headgear on. One of them, as you well see, has rolled his overalls down. It's enormously hot here at Rio, and it's a tyre change. A Michelin tyre change. I wonder if there is anything significant about that. They're the radial cars compared with the Goodyear Crosslines, which many other competitors are on.
Well, I would suspect that Patrese's problem was something other than tyres, and that was a routine change, because a fresh, cool set are better than a used hot set in these sort of conditions. So they tend to do that when you come into the pits, because he was going too slowly. I think he must have some sort of mechanical problem with the car.
On the left, Eddie Cheever has moved up to 9th place. There is Jacques Laffite up with him in number 2, Williams. There's Cheever. Now, Laffite is starting to climb up through the field. He was in 13th place, and he's therefore now 10th, with Eddie Cheever in car number 16. This is his first Grand Prix, and out of the running there goes Corrado Fabi, who was driving in his first Grand Prix for the Acela team, the Formula 2 champion of 1982. So, Jacques Laffite climbing up through the field, chasing Eddie Cheever. Jacques Laffite had a very unhappy practice. All sorts of reasons were given. He's passed Cheever, as you well see. Some people said his shoes were too tight. Some said he wasn't feeling well. Some said he was getting used to the car. But whatever the reason, Jacques Laffite is going much better in the race than he did in practice, as we look at Nelson Piquet on lap 21, just about 1/3 distance. And it's not going to be all that long now before Piquet has to come in to refuel. And when they tried that last year, it wasn't altogether successful. There is Guerrero.
Yes, Watson is now just under 41 seconds behind Piquet. He has actually, now he's got a clear track, he's closed that gap very, very slightly in the last couple of laps. But he's going to be a very tight run thing when Piquet's done his stop. And of course Rosberg is still well ahead of him too, but we expect him to make a pit stop, although the Williams team wouldn't, for reasons best known to themselves, tell us whether they were going to make a stop or not. Here comes Piquet into the pit.
There's Patrese into the pits again, as we look at Nigel Mansell on the right in 18th position, challenging Danny Sullivan. And it's obviously a very unhappy Riccardo Patrese. Look, he's disconnecting his air pipe. His race is over. And there goes Arnoux, chased by Sura, chased by Laffite. And into the pits now comes Eddie Cheever. I hope we'll see this. Now, the rot is really getting at the turbo cars. Patrese out, Cheever into the pits. And the race order is Nelson Piquet leading, Rosberg second, Watson third, and he's 40 seconds behind Piquet, so it could still depend on, there is Rosberg, it could all depend on the pit stop and how efficient as Cheever blasts out of the pits. Prost fourth, Tombe fifth, and Baldi in sixth position.
Dass der Renault-Fahrer an die Box kommt. Möglich aber, dass Eddie Cheever an den Boxen sozusagen durchgestartet hat und wieder weitergefahren ist. Das gleiche hat der Nelson Piquet voriges Jahr beim Österreich Grand Prix getan. Ein Rennen, das so völlig anders ist als der brasilianische Grand Prix 1982. Damals dieser 4- oder 5-Kampf an der Spitze, den Gilles Villeneuve bis zu seinem Ausfall nach, ich glaube, 28 Runden beherrscht hat. Gute Nachricht für die österreichischen Formel-1-Fans. Niki Lauda ist an Derek Wolf vorbeigegangen und bereits an der 7. Stelle. Also ein Platz nur noch hinter den Punkterängen. Erster Piquet, zweiter Rosberg, dritter Watson, vierter Prost, fünfter Tambay, sechster Baldi, siebenter Lauda, achter Voigt, neunter Arnoux, zehnter Tourer. Ganz links im Bild diese schnelle Kurve, die im vierten Gang genommen wird. Hier hatte Niki Lauda beim Testen im Jänner einen Unfall, und zwar haben die Carbonbremsen versagt. McLaren hat aber weiter getestet. Boxenstopp von Charrier.
The pits there, Charrier. Now, Charrier was battling for 10th position at one time, so things are starting to get spread out. There is Piquet. He is on his 23rd lap. Charrier in the pits in the brand new Ligier after having driven for the Osella team last year. And with over 1/3 distance completed, Piquet leads. Rosberg second. Watson is going extremely well and gaining. Alain Prost is still in 4th place. Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari is still 5th. Mauro Baldi, however, in 6th place in the Euro Racing Alfa Romeo with its turbocharged V8 engine, as we look at Eliseo Salazar in the pits. Baldi has got Niki Lauda right behind him, and I'm going to make a forecast that the two Marlboro McLaren cars could really come good in the closing stages of this race, because they've got immaculate preparation. That's Raul Barcel, the second of the two Brazilian drivers, Nelson Piquet being the other, and Barcel is driving in his first race for the Ligier team. But at the moment, the Marlboro McLaren cars of Watson and Lauda have got a great deal going for them, with the fact that they are going to be able to keep going when the leaders have to come in and make those stops for fuel and tyres.
Well, there's a bit of a stalemate amongst our first three at the moment, in that none is pulling away from the other or catching the other. Rosberg's keeping his gap very close to 12 seconds behind Piquet, and Watson is keeping very close to 40 seconds behind Piquet. So it looks as if we're going to have to wait for the pit stops to get any real development, but they should be coming quite soon. We're more than a third of the way through the race, and they'll be stopping probably around about or even a bit before half distance. Let's see who that is. One of the Alphas, maybe. I think that might be Mauro Baldi. He must have had a spin, so Lauda presumably has got past it. Lauda was battling with Baldi for 6th place, and that would, I presume, unless they both went off, put Lauda into 6th place. We'll have to look.
Well, this is the time to pause for breath and think, with the blue flags being furiously waved at René Arnoux in the Ferrari, who is in 9th position. And Arnoux is not going nearly as well as we expected. And the race order now on lap 24, with Piquet leading, Rosberg second, Watson in 3rd place, in 4th place is Prost, In 5th position is Tombe. In 6th position is Niki Lauda. In 7th position is Derek Warwick. And in 8th position is Mark Surer.
Well, it looks as if Lauda must have had a spin as well. I suspect they tangled up because according to our information screen here, he's lost a lap. So Lauda must have had a spin and a stop if that information is correct.
Well, they're coming into the pits, left, right and centre. That is Raul Barcel, the Brazilian, driving in his first Grand Prix for the Ligier team. Meantime, Fabi on the left in the Osella has come back, and car number 23 there is Baldi in the Euro Racing turbocharged V8 Alfa Romeo car. So Niki Lauda then, we're just checking on the situation whether Lauda is in fact in 6th position or further down the field, as scorching through there, number 30 is Chico Serra, the Brazilian. And by the way, we have had definite information that Australian ex-world champion Alan Jones is going to be testing the Arrows car at Willow Springs before Long Beach. There goes Surer through to pass Barcel, who is now in the pits, as the rest of them stream through. The weather conditions are holding superbly. So is Nelson Piquet's Brabham BMW. He is on lap 25 now, and we're watching while I talk to you across from our commentary position. There's the fastest lap, Nelson Piquet, 139.8, 112 miles an hour, which is 3.2 seconds outside his own lap record of 1982, when, of course, the cars were faster by virtue of the fact that they had the skirts and extra downforce, which gave more tyre grip, therefore allowed the cars to slide less and were much easier to handle. Well, Piquet's proving that he can adapt himself, ex-world champion that he is, to drive this new kind, or rather going back to the old days of Grand Prix car. And he's closing up now on the Osella, or is it the Ligier in front of him? There's the flame coming from the turbo as he backs off. And it looks as though the problem that I was expecting with overheated shock absorbers on the left-hand side is not, in fact, happening. As Piquet comes down the long straight, and he is about to lap the Ferrari of René Arnoux as he closes up on Arnoux, who is followed by Cecotto, who is followed by Mark Surer, and on lap 26, Nelson Piquet leads by 12 seconds. He leads Rosberg, who is second, and is 27 seconds ahead of the third place man, John Watson. In fourth place, it is Alain Prost. In fifth place, it is Patrick Tombe in the Ferrari. In sixth position, it is Niki Lauda. In seventh place is Derek Warwick in the turbocharged Tolman. In eighth is Mark Surer. Ninth is Lafitte. 10th is Arnoux. 11th is Cecotto. 12th is Serra. And Nigel Mansell is in 15th place with still a long way to go.
Piquet überrundet jetzt Chico Serra. Vorne Arnoux und Cecotto. Arnoux 10., Cecotto 11., Serra 12., Bösel 13. Und dahinter mit je einer Runde Rückstand Sullivan, Mansell, Cheever und De Angelis. 25. Runde, Piquet, Rosberg, Watson, Prost, Tombe und Lauda. Inzwischen ist Lauda an Patrick Tombe vorbeigegangen und bereits 5. Boxenstopp von Bösel. Jetzt hat Piquet auch Cecotto überrundet. Arnoux schaut in den Rückspiegel. Kommt als nächster dran, nur noch 10 Fahrer in der gleichen Runde. 10. und letzter, der mit dem führenden Piquet in der gleichen Runde ist, also René Arnoux.
Ready to receive Keke Rosberg. The Williams team are standing out there in their red overalls, in their white helmets, and the Brabham team are not yet ready to receive Nelson Piquet. That's Patrick Tombe And behind Patrick Tambay is Niki Lauda. Now, Niki Lauda's coming up through the field, as did his teammate John Watson, who is in third position. Patrick Tambay on the left in the Ferrari on lap 28 now. He's going to be taken, I think, by ex-double world champion Niki Lauda, who won his world championship in Ferrari, has driven for Brabham, and he's now right with Tambay.
Yes, Niki Lauda's been having more trouble getting past the powerful turbos than John Watson was having. I think probably hasn't got the car set up quite as well as Watson has obviously got his. But in the meantime, Watson is also closing slightly on Nelson Piquet, and he's got the gap down to under 37 seconds now. And this may prove very significant after the stop. And Murray just said the Williams team are ready for Rosberg's arrival, and so it looks like the fun and games are about to start.
Let's get ready for it then by me telling you that Keke Rosberg is 12 seconds behind Nelson Piquet, as Tambay and Lauda as one pass Manfred Winkelhock in the turbocharged BMW, and Lauda gets his wheels inside those of Patrick Tambay's Ferrari on the left-hander. Tambay holds the line, keeps tight in on the right-hander. They're coming through to complete a lap. That's Tambay in 5th position, Lauda in 6th place. They're going into the right-hander at the Ritorno, which is a 4th gear, 145 mile-an-hour bend, accelerating up to the left-hander at Pace, 3rd gear, 125 miles an hour, named after the late Carlos Pace, the brilliant Brazilian who won here in 1966. Now from Pace they go down to the Cartodromo corner, into the right-hander at Novato, round the left-hander at Nortain, into the long straight.
And Rosberg's coming in. Rosberg is on his way into the pit. Now remember that this morning they did a rehearsal pit stop and it wasn't a great success. I'm afraid the director hasn't picked up that fact yet, but I'll just have to talk you through it. He's now stationary, and well, it's a bit wet. Now we have it. They're putting fuel in, and they will be changing all 4 tyres. One left-hand front is ready, and we got a fire, but they put it out, I think. And what bad luck, and what a pity.
And that is the penalty of lack of training, because it looks as though Keke Rosberg was going to retire, but he has got back into the car, but he's losing time, all the time, of course, and now John Watson will be up into 2nd place. And the reason is the lack of practice on the part of the Williams team, as Keke Rosberg is belted up in his car again. The mechanics have to do it, the driver can't, because he can't do up the crutch straps and the shoulder straps. And the seconds are ticking away, and John Watson has definitely gone up into 2nd place. The Williams team had not had the opportunity to practice this pit stop routine, as had the Brabham team last year, as a result of which it was quite frankly a shambles. Blow back and fire. John Watson is 2nd, Piquet leads, and all the time Keke Rosberg is dropping back.
Yes, it was rather bad luck on the Williams team in the respect that the last thing expected was to be making a pit stop when they came here, and it was only because they had such a big difference in tyre performance between the softer ones that wouldn't last going over 2 seconds a lap quicker, and it was therefore obvious that it would be better to make a pit stop, as these cars would do half a race on each set. But it was a terrible shambles, and they really should have done better than that, despite the obvious difficulties of being 5,000 or 6,000 miles from home and getting presented with this problem. They should have practiced it more.
And this now then is the battle for 4th position between Patrick Tambay and Niki Lauda, because they have both passed the pits with Rosberg stationary, and Tambay is still ahead of the hard-charging Niki Lauda. Indeed, he's pulled away from him a bit. There goes the Ferrari. There is the Marlboro McLaren. Rosberg, of course, has rejoined the race, but he's lost a lot of time. We are now on lap 30. Nelson Piquet leads. Watson has gone up to 2nd. In 3rd position now then is Alain Prost. In 4th place is Patrick Tambay. In 5th place is Niki Lauda, and we're waiting to see where Rosberg comes through at the end of this lap.
there with John Tambay and Nicky, as I said before, we seem to be having more difficulty getting round the turbo cars than teammate John Watson, and he's been stuck behind Tambay for quite a while now and seems a little bit at a loss as what to do. I'm sure he'd get away from him if he could just get past, but he seems to be lacking a little bit of enterprise in that department. But of course, if his car's not set up dead right, it's not so easy. It's easy for me to sit up here and make remarks like that, but it's another thing down there.
You can see here how far Rosberg has dropped back, because Nelson Piquet, the race leader there, has got Keke Rosberg in front of him and is in a position if he keeps going to lap it, but I don't think Rosberg is going to let him get away with that. Keke Rosberg then must have lost about 1.5 minutes on that pit stop, because, no, rather less than that, about a minute I would think, because he was some 20 seconds behind Nelson Piquet when that catastrophic pit stop happened, and now Piquet has swept through the field and has indeed got ahead of Keke Rosberg. So Rosberg has been lapped by the race leader Nelson Piquet. And on lap 31, it is, in terms of race order, Nelson Piquet leading, John Watson in second place, Alain Prost is still in third position. In fourth position, it is Patrick Tambay. In fifth position, it is Niki Lauda. And up onto the leaderboard in sixth position comes Derek Warwick in the turbocharged Toleman in the World Championship points. Piquet leading. In seventh place behind Warwick, while you watch the race leader Nelson Piquet. In seventh position is Jacques Lafitte. In eighth position, Mark Surer. By the way, Lafitte in the second tag Williams will almost certainly not be stopping. And I think he's very pleased about that if he knew what had happened to Keke Rosberg. Well, there is the first six. And you can see that Derek Warwick is 1.5 minutes behind Nelson Piquet. But Lafitte seventh, Surer a magnificent eighth. That's the team that Alan Jones is going to join if the necessary sponsorship can be raised by Jackie Oliver. And in ninth position now Keke Rosberg. There is Sylvia, his girlfriend, holding out the board for Rosberg to give him the bad news that he's dropped down to ninth position, and he's closed the gap between himself and Piquet, who had passed him. In 10th position, it's Johnny Cecotto driving magnificently in his first Grand Prix for Theodore. Down to 11th place has gone René Arnoux. 12th is Chico Serra in the second of the two Arrows. 13th is Danny Sullivan in his first Grand Prix in the Benetton Tyrrell. 14th is Eddie Cheever in the Arrows. 15th is Nigel Mansell. 16th is Elio De Angelis. And 17th is Manfred Winkelhock. And Piquet has lapped everybody up to 8th position.
Jänner eine letzte Operation noch diesbezüglich auf sich nehmen müssen. Die Operation ist gelungen, unmittelbar nach der Teilnahme von Surer an der Jänner-Rallye in Österreich gewesen. Surer war bei seinem Ausflug zu den Rallye-Fahrern durch eine Grippe sehr stark gehandicapt, aber es hat ihm sehr viel Freude gemacht. Wird vielleicht auch im nächsten Jahr wieder nach Österreich kommen, um eine Rallye zu fahren. Vielleicht wissen Sie, er hat in Österreich das Rennfahren gelernt, und zwar auf der Rennstrecke von Selbeck. Dieter Stappert, der BMW-Rennleiter, hat jetzt die Boxensignale hinausgehalten. Nach 31 Runden kann Piquet also lesen, plus 36 Watson, plus 1,07 Prost. Dann mit 1,19 Rückstand innerhalb von 2 Zehntelsekunden Tambay und Lauda. 6. Warwick, 7. Lafitte, 8. Surer, dann überrundet Rosberg, Cecotto, Arnoux, Serra, Cheever, Sullivan, Mansell, De Angelis und Winkelhock. Winkelhock hat jetzt gerade diesen schnellen Bulk an sich vorbeigelassen. Nächster Fahrer in den Boxen, Nigel Mansell auf Lotus. Piquet überrundet Surer, Mansell in der Box. Bei Lotus hat man ja heuer die Reifenfirma gewechselt. Man ist zu Purcell-Reifen übergewechselt. Dieser Lotus 92, den Sie jetzt gesehen haben, ist das sogenannte Computerauto der Formel 1. Hat keine Federn,
Significant in speeding up the stop by a few seconds.
Nigel Mansell's JPS Ford car with the unique electro-hydraulic suspension has changed all 4 tyres and wheels in 17 seconds and blasted out to rejoin the race as Rosberg passes Mark Surer, the Swiss driver in the Arrows, who was in hospital most of yesterday with a stomach complaint from which he seems to have recovered extremely well. But now Piquet has lapped him and Rosberg has passed, although of course Rosberg is a full lap behind Nelson Piquet, so he will be now on the same lap as Mark Surer. And the race order is Piquet leading. You're looking at the race leader now in the first of 1983's 17 World Championship Grand Prix, and still Patrick Tambay there has got Niki Lauda behind him. That's Salazar, the Chilean driver, behind Tambay.
I think I see signs of preparation in the Brabham pit going on for the Piquet pit stop, if it's going to happen.
Well, there's Salazar taking both hands off the wheel. I think Salazar still feels very embarrassed about the incident he had with Nelson Piquet in the German Grand Prix last year. And he waves both hands at Niki Lauda to say, go past, for heaven's sake. Niki Lauda leads no encouragement and does so, and has now got to close the gap between himself and Patrick Tambay. Meantime, I am looking to see where Nelson Piquet is, because there is no doubt that the Brabham team now, their blue overall mechanics with the white helmets, are ready on lap 34 out of 63 to receive Nelson Piquet. And if they bodge as the Williams team bodged Rosberg's pit stop, the pit stop for Piquet, then John Watson could very easily move into the lead and be on his way, that is car number 7, for his 5th Grand Prix win in his long career. There is Lafitte, who has been passed by Rosberg, who is right still behind Nelson Piquet. Now, if we stay with Piquet, I think Piquet's going to come in this lap. The Brabham mechanics have taken up positions, and Nelson Piquet, I'm virtually certain, is going to come in at the end of his 34th lap, with the gap between himself and John Watson at 33 seconds to refuel and take on new tyres and wheels. Now, it's not just the stopping time that matters, it is the fact that they have to slow down and then accelerate away, probably through a crowded pit lane. And Piquet now is not so very far off the pit position. There he goes, round the left-hander. He's on the far side of the circuit. Everything is ready for him to put in 25 gallons of fuel under pressure. And they practiced it today before the race began. It took 14 seconds from the time the wheel stopped until the wheel started to put in that 25 gallons and to change tyres and wheels. Well, we'll soon know, because Nelson Piquet is now approaching the last corner, and we'll see whether or not he goes into the pits. Yes. No, he's going through. Piquet goes through, and the gap between himself and Keke Rosberg is 0.65 seconds. And on lap 36, Nelson Piquet leads John Watson by 34 seconds. Alain Prost in 3rd position is a long way behind, but in 4th place, Niki Lauda, and there he is only 13 seconds behind the Frenchman in the Renault, Prost, who is in 3rd place. Patrick Tambay is now, as you see, behind Niki Lauda, and therefore in 5th place. Derek Warwick is still 6th, and Piquet has lapped everybody up to Derek Warwick, who is 6th. Jacques Lafitte is 7th, Keke Rosberg is 8th, Surer is 9th, Picotto is 10th, Arnoux is 11th, Chico Serra is 12th. There is Piquet passing Warwick. He's therefore now lapped everybody up to 6th place, and Warwick looks at his mirrors and sees Keke Rosberg there. Good look at the new Brabham BMW. Those of you who are technically oriented will notice that it has push rod front suspension, a change from last year's pull rod, that the radiators and turbos are mounted at the back of the car, just in front of the rear wheels, that it is a very narrow monocoque, and it's all excitement again. We are on edge here, the crowd certainly is, because the national hero of Brazil will surely, this lap, be coming in. This is the end of lap 36. And again he goes through. Now let's watch and see if the signal boards go out. It could... Piquet's car sounding a tiny bit flat as he goes down the straight there. Let's see if Keke Rosberg makes up any time and distance on him. Piquet could, of course, be sandbagging. We know that he has the intention to come in, but there are the positions. Piquet, Prost, Lauda, so it's Brabham, Renault. Why have they got John Watson down in 7th place? That is quite wrong. Take no notice of that caption. It's wrong. John Watson is still in 2nd place, which gave us a nasty twinge there. Something has gone amiss with the equipment, subject to confirmation. There is René Arnoux. Behind René Arnoux in the Ferrari is Chico Serra, the Brazilian who has been held back all last season and the season before by having inadequate Fittipaldi equipment in the form of a motor car that didn't work at all reliably. And Chico Serra is a much better driver than people give him credit for, and you can see that from the way he is challenging René Arnoux, who is in 11th position. And they're both coming up behind Manfred Winkelhock. And Watson is in trouble. Watson has disappeared. That's tragic news. John Watson is off our lap chart now as René Arnoux passes Winkelhock. Alain Prost then, who won 2 Grand Prix, including this one, has moved, last year has moved up into 2nd place again. Alain Prost 2nd. Piquet leads, and Piquet now has got enough of a lead over Alain Prost to be able to make a comparatively leisurely pit stop and still retain his lead. Lauda is in 3rd place.
Yes, so long as he doesn't stay out there too long and run out of fuel. I don't know whether he's actually been called in yet, but I think one would certainly expect him to stop by now. Lauda looks a good chance to catch Prost before the end of the race and have a challenge at him. But what a big disappointment for John Watson after driving such an exceptional race, and he really was in a position to come out pretty level with Piquet for the lead of the race.
Recap on who's been out. Patrese is out of the race. Eddie Cheever's been into the pits. Bruno Giacomelli is out of the race. Corrado Fabi is out of the race. Jerrier's been into the pits. Keke Rosberg is down now, out. He's back in the points. He's back in World Championship points. He's in 5th place. And there, I don't know whether the producer knows any more than we do, but there the Brabham team indubitably ready to receive their #1 man, and the only man in a Brabham BMW is out on the circuit, race leader Nelson Piquet, who is on his 38th lap. And now, on lap 38, the race order is Nelson Piquet leads, Prost is 2nd, Lauda in the Marlboro McLaren is 3rd, Torbay is 4th, Rosberg is 5th, Derek Warwick is still in World Championship points in 6th position, and Nigel Mansell is 15th.
Dritter hinter Piquet und Prost vor Tambay und Rosberg, und sein Rückstand auf Alain Prost wird geringer. Vorige Runde hat Lauda 4 Zehntel aufgeholt, jetzt wieder etwas mehr. Lauda nur noch 9,2 Sekunden hinter Prost. Wir sind in der 38. Runde. 9,2 Sekunden trennen Lauda vom zweitplatzierten Alain Prost. Und 5,3 Sekunden hat er bereits Vorsprung auf den viertplatzierten Patrick Tambay. Piquet ist im Augenblick für Lauda unerreichbar. Der Ex-Weltmeister führt mit 1 Minute 16 vor Prost und 1 Minute 25 vor Lauda. Lotus, vorne der Lotus Ford und dahinter Elio De Angelis. Beide werden jetzt von Piquet überrundet. beide zum zweiten Mal den Angelis. Menzel ist 15. 4 Fahrer nur noch in der gleichen Runde, Piquet, Prost, Lauda, Tambay.
Scary moment, that fire in the Rosberg crew, but apart from lost time, it has no apparent ill effect on his performance. And the placings at lap 39, Piquet, Prost, with Lauda catching Prost in 3rd position, Tambay, Rosberg and Warwick. Now it's back to James Hunt and Murray Walker.
And again he goes through. And the gap between, I've got the stopwatch running, as Piquet made his way up to the Ritorno, between Nelson Piquet in the lead and Alain Prost in the Renault in 2nd places, and it is very, very substantial. John Watson has definitely retired, rotten luck because he was driving absolutely superbly, but he is definitely out of the race. So Piquet leads a long, long way ahead of Alain Prost. Niki Lauda is in 3rd place, and he's only 6 seconds behind Prost. Then in 4th position, and we're watching Nelson Piquet. 4th is Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari. 6th is Keke Rosberg. 7th is Warwick. So as far as cars are concerned, as we look at Nigel Mansell there, and he is in 14th position, and he's 2 laps. No, he's a lap behind Nelson Piquet, but he's soon going to be 2 laps behind, because Piquet, as we look down from the helicopter, is gaining on the JPF with its Ford Cosworth engine and its unique suspension, because the car that Nigel Mansell is driving has got no shock absorbers, has got no springs, and the suspension is an electro-hydraulic one, which works on the principles of a skier's legs. The computer in the left pod instantly adjusts the post. And there's Rosberg through and taking Piquet and streaking straight past Mansell. And into the pits now comes Piquet. Now we're going to see how the Brabham team deal with a pit stop. Don't forget that Rosberg has been in and it was singularly unsuccessful. I'm going to start the stopwatch, and the wheels stop now. In goes the fuel line. At the background you see a special tank to receive the vapors that are being driven out by the ingoing fuel. Up go the hammers, out comes the fuel, and away goes Piquet, and I make it 16.86 seconds. He has still retained the lead.
And a very good pit stop indeed by the Brabham team. They did tyres as well. They were undecided before the race as to whether they need to do that. So didn't miss a beat, not a hitch at all, and I would think that Piquet probably lost something like half a minute on the road with his decelerating and accelerating time.
Well, into his 42nd lap goes Nelson Piquet, and the interest now is Niki Lauda going to catch and pass Alain Prost, behind whom he is now only 5 seconds. There's Piquet. Now Piquet is on his 41st lap. He has therefore got 22 to go. He's got a very secure lead. There is his ecstatically happy Brazilian crowd of countrymen watching him. And Nelson Piquet will of course be out for revenge after last year, when, after battling all the way, first with the late Gilles Villeneuve in the Ferrari, who went off at this very corner, incidentally, when Piquet was passing him, and then with Keke Rosberg, Piquet won with Rosberg second, only both of them to be excluded because their cars were underweight in comparison with the regulations. As a result of that, Alain Prost, who is second in this race, moved up to be adjudged the winner last year. There is Derek Warwick. Now the Turbo Tolman, that's the new car, very distinctive shape with radiators in front of the front wheels, special fairing, and there is Prost and Lauda. This is the battle for second place. Are we going to see a change? Niki Lauda right up with Alain Prost, and he's clawed back about 10 seconds, and that's Salazar's car. Salazar's mark in the pits John McDonnell's team. And what a pity we've left the battle for second place between Prost and Lauda, because Niki Lauda, grizzled campaigner and tactician that he is could still win this race. I know that Piquet has been in and taken on fuel and taken on new tyres, but don't forget that Riccardo Patrese, his teammate, has got out of the race, and there is Lauda going through to take second place from Prost, or is he? No, Prost holds it, and Lauda holds it, and up into second place. This is the second time a Marlboro McLaren car has been in second place in this Brazilian Grand Prix of 1983. But where it was John Watson before, it is now Niki Lauda, who has his trainer Willie Dungle with him, who's advised him on diet, has advised. There he goes again. Replay of Niki Lauda passing Alain Prost. So the new race order on lap 42 is Nelson Piquet leading, Alain Prost down to third, Niki Lauda up to second, Patrick Tambay is fourth, Keke Rosberg is fifth. Last man in the World Championship points is Derek Warwick, who has yet to score a World Championship point in his career. Seventh is Mark Fura, eighth is Lafitte, ninth is René Arnoux, in 10th position is Serra, 11th is Chiva, 12th is Cecotto, 13th is Sullivan, 14th is Mansell, 15th is De Angelis, 16th is Winkelhock, and in 17th place Eliseo Salazar, who is 3 laps behind the leader. Niki Lauda driving magnificently. Well, I'll put the watch on the gap between Lauda, who is now up to Salazar, and Piquet to see what the gap is. But really, I think Nelson Piquet can pace himself home now as Niki Lauda goes through and completes the lap. And in the short distance, since Niki Lauda passed Alain Prost, he has pulled out a 3.5 second lead over the Frenchman. So Lauda is really on his way, with the fuel load getting lighter, his tyres good for the race distance, and that is Eddie Cheever. Eddie Cheever's blown it. The Renault is out with the usual trouble from the look of it, a blown turbo. Look at the flames from the left rear, the right rear as you look at it. And Eddie's looking at it in his mirror, and he's decided that now is the time to leave, and he's going to stop the car. He pulls in behind Corrado Fabi's Osella, and he's going to be out of that cockpit like a jackrabbit. Although the flames have subsided, Eddie Cheever by no means the luckiest of drivers, and there is Piquet. Eddie Cheever was in his 40th Grand Prix. He drove for Osella in 1980, for Tyrrell in 1981, for Talbot last year. So in 4 years he has driven for 4 teams. Piquet leads, Lauda second, Prost third, Tambay fourth, Rosberg in 5th position, and Mark Fura in 6th position. Where is Derek Warwick? Derek Warwick is down to 7th place. He's out of the pits. The underrated Mark Fura, seemingly recovered from his tummy bug. There is Cheever, despondently walking home. At least he's got the pleasure of being able to take his crash helmet off and loosen his overalls and cool down a bit. As Piquet goes through, well, into the left-hander goes Nelson Piquet with a good lead.
Gründen nicht Derek Warwick, sondern Eddie Cheever, der neue Fahrer Nummer 2 im Team von Renault. Und im Gegensatz zum vorigen Jahr, als es ja die Stallduelle zwischen Prost und Arnoux gegeben hat, klare Nummer 1 Position für Prost in diesem Winter. Eddie Cheever ist Nummer 2, muss also immer zurücktreten, wenn es um das bessere Material, den besseren Motor, die besseren Reifen oder so etwas geht. Piquet hat natürlich sehr profitiert vom hervorragend gelungenen Boxenstopp. Liegt 55 Minuten vor Lauda, 58 Sekunden, natürlich 58 Sekunden vor Prost, 1 Minute 07 vor Tambay, 1:08 vor Rosberg, 1:27 vor Fura, 1:29 vor Warwick und 1:29 vor Lafitte. Durch den Boxenstopp von Piquet natürlich jetzt wieder mehr Fahrer in einer Runde. Es sind 8 Fahrer bis zu Lafitte, eine Runde Rückstand für Arnoux. Serra, Sullivan, Menz, 2 Runden zurück, Cheever, Ausgeschieden ist Aldo De Angelis an der 13. Stelle, Winkelhock 14. Cecotto 15. Salazar 16. Cecotto mit 3 Runden Rückstand an 15. Stelle, nachdem er sich so hervorragend geschlagen hatte im ersten Grand Prix seiner Karriere. Cecotto 1975 zum Motorrad Grand Prix Sport gekommen hat, auf Anhieb in den 200-Meilen-Rennen von Daytona und Imola geglänzt, war in Imola Sieger, in Imola Dritter, war in Daytona Sieger, kam dann zum ersten Mal auf eine europäische Grand Prix-Strecke nach Le Castellet und hat dort den berühmten Giacomo Agostini auf Anhieb geschlagen, nachdem man ihm zu...
There are still 18 laps to go. It is still possible for Niki Lauda to win if he goes on in catching Piquet at the speed that he is catching him now. But at the moment, and I think for some time, unless Piquet hits trouble, it's Piquet leading, Lauda second, Prost in third position, Keke Rosberg now up into fourth position because he has got ahead of Patrick Tambay. Into the pits comes Manfred Winkelhock in the ATF. In sixth position it's Mark Sura and seventh is Derek Warwick, and there is Lauda. Closing up on Danny Sullivan, who is in 11th position, number 4 in the Benetton Tyrrell, Danny Sullivan from Louisville, Kentucky, who is inevitably known as the Kentucky Kid, who started his racing career 12 years ago in the Jim Russell Racing Driver School. And now you will see there is the difference, which confirms that as near as makes no difference, the time I gave you was right, 52 seconds between Lauda and Piquet. And I'm going to continue to take that gap on the 46th lap with 17 to go at the end of this one. There is the race leader, Nelson Piquet, his first race drive in this new Brabham BMW designed by Gordon Murray. There's a bit of rubber thrown up from the track, I presume, and not from his Michelin tyre. There's a lot of rubber lying about, of course, and if you look at the pods, and there's a good, you see the number 5 on the side of the car. That is actually painted on a very tight gauze mesh screen. That's Alain Prost, but he's being taken by Rosberg. Rosberg is blasting through the field. He's now up into third position after that bad pit stop of his. So it's Piquet leading, Lauda second and Prost third, and the gap between Lauda and Prost is, between Lauda and Rosberg is only about 8 seconds. There you see the replay. Now, Keke Rosberg, of whom we had lost sight for quite a long time, is really on his way. He's probably the fastest driver on the circuit because he has really got the incentive now to go.
Being badly carved up by the back marker there. He's not looking in his mirror.
It's Salazar again, who doesn't seem to be the best of men, are getting out of the way, James.
No, it really is too bad. He actually failed to qualify and got into the race courtesy of the disqualification, but he really shouldn't be driving. He's completely out of order there, not looking in his mirror, and Rosberg's busy with a motor race, and he's only out for a Sunday afternoon drive. It's just terrible. It's so frustrating for the quick drivers, because when they're going slowly, they do look in their mirror and get out of the way. Anyway, Rosberg is now going so well that he could actually win. He's going very quick. He's coming up on Lauda pretty quickly. It'll be interesting to see his progress.
I'll tell you that because I've just started the stopwatch on Niki Lauda, and as he goes through into the lap, Keke Rosberg comes out of the last right-hander and into the finishing straight, and the gap between Lauda, who is second, and Rosberg, who is third, is 11.8 seconds. And as you see, Alain Prost is certainly dropping back because he is now up with Salazar, who has already been passed by Keke Rosberg. And the Renaults again have flattered to deceive. Eddie Cheever out of the race. There is Niki Lauda, second place. It's less than 50 seconds now, the gap between Lauda and Piquet. But I'm not going to get too excited about that because I'm pretty sure that Nelson Piquet knows exactly what the situation is. Bernie Ecclestone will be giving him pit signals. There is René Arnoux in his first drive in the Ferrari, and he is in 10th position. In fact, on lap 48, Piquet leads, Lauda second. We're looking at Arnoux. Rosberg is in 3rd position. In 4th place it is Prost, and in 5th it is Tambay in the Ferrari, who is leading his teammate René Arnoux there. In 6th position, last in the World Championship points, Marc Surer. 7th Lafitte, 8th Warwick, who's dropped down 2 places. 9th Arnoux, 10th Serra, 11th Sullivan, and up into 12th place now has come Nigel Mansell. And it's a good point, I think, to say this is the first Grand Prix of 1983 in which the revised car specification rules apply. Look closely at between the front wheels of Arnoux's Ferrari and rear wheels, and where the skirts used to be running alongside, and the man who's challenging him, incidentally, is Chico Serra, who's giving him absolutely no mercy at all. Chico Serra battling with René Arnoux for 9th position. And there is Nelson Piquet with Johnny Cecotto behind him. Cecotto is in 16th place in the Theodore. And I was saying that this is the first Grand Prix for the new regulations. Lighter cars, minimum weight down to 540 kilograms. No skirts, which help the cars to hold the road well. The rear wing has been moved forwards and upwards, and the result has been far less tyre adhesion, making the cars harder to drive, making the tyres easier to wear, and there is no doubt that Grand Prix racing is going to be a lot more interesting as a result of it. Well, Piquet is now on his 49th lap out of 63. The gap on the previous lap between himself and Niki Lauda was just about 50 seconds. It's 34 seconds since Piquet started the lap, and Lauda is coming through. I don't think that Lauda is in fact making up any time on the Brazilian in the Brabham BMW at the present moment. Lauda's coming out of the right-hander to complete his 49th lap, and the gap is 52 seconds, so Lauda is actually dropping back a bit. Now, what's the gap between Lauda and Rosberg? I'll just give you this, and we'll see whether Rosberg is gaining on Lauda. Indeed he is, 10.5 seconds.
Yes, terrific drive by Rosberg after that bungled pit stop, coming back to the field, and that must now be... I think Piquet has got the message that Rosberg has come through into 3rd place, and I suspect he's responded accordingly, because Lauda was catching him. He probably felt he could take it easy and let that gap slip a bit, but may have felt a bit threatened knowing that Rosberg's behind him and going hard.
Piquet leads, there he is. Completely new carbon fibre monocoque underneath those body panels of car number 5. Piquet, as I told you, won at Brazil last year only to be disqualified. He then won in Canada, the first and only Brabham BMW victory. 2nd in Holland, 4th in the Swiss Grand Prix, 5th in the Belgium, but only in 11th place in the World Championship. That's Nelson Piquet last year, because he regarded last year as an investment year to perfect the Brabham BMW. And here are Arnoux and Serra still hammer and tongsing it away for 9th position. And Chico Serra really showing that he's a driver that deserves a very good motor car. He hasn't had one until this year. This is the new Dave Watt designed Arrows, and the fact that it's a very good motor car is manifested by the fact that Alan Jones has signified that he's prepared to come out of retirement in Australia when his broken hip has mended and drive for his old mate Jackie Oliver, because he used to drive for him when Jackie Oliver was with the Shadow team years ago. There is...
Niki Lauda hat mit der Fitness sicher heute keine Probleme. Es gibt wahrscheinlich keinen anderen Grand Prix-Fahrer, der körperlich so austrainiert ist wie der Österreicher. Ist jeden Tag hier gelaufen, und zwar um 6 Uhr früh und um 6 Uhr abends, wenn es nur, unter Anführungszeichen, knapp unter 30 Grad gehabt hat. hat natürlich schon vor Monaten mit einem Aufbautraining mit Willi Dunkel begonnen. Auch der zweite McLaren-Fahrer John Watson hat das meiste Training mitgemacht. Hinter Lauda liegt ein überrundeter Lotus. Ich glaube, Nigel Mansell. Der McLaren MP4 1T ist der breiteste Wagen der augenblicklichen Autogeneration. Der wird auch entsprechend sicher für den Fahrer, weil er seitlichen Schutz gibt. Runden noch, hat man in der Box ausgerechnet.
Still 52 seconds. However, Keke is closing on Lauda with 12 to go. The gap is down to 6.7 seconds. Looks like it's really on for young and old. Now back to Murray and James, up to the finish.
Crossing the line, while you look at René Arnoux, and the gap between Lauda and Keke Rosberg, as they both start another lap, is 6.7 seconds. Meantime, with that information about the battle for seconds, there on the left is Arnoux in 9th place. There in the white sponsor-less arrows, which certainly deserves some money, is Chico Serra, charging hard, trying to catch Arnoux. Arnoux is still a long way behind. He's 4 seconds behind Derek Warwick, who is 9th, and Derek Warwick is just behind Jacques Lafitte, who is 7th. Mark Sura is in 6th position, so Jackie Oliver must be absolutely delighted. His two team cars, one of which we're looking at on the right, are in 6th place. That's Mark Sura in the World Championship points, good for the prize money, and Chico Serra, who is in 10th place. Meantime, we are with Nelson Piquet, as you see Derek Warwick there, and Derek Warwick in the turbocharged Tolman in 8th position is on. Now we are looking on lap 52 out of 63 at race leader Nelson Piquet, who is 52 seconds ahead of Niki Lauda, second, who is about 5 seconds ahead of Keke Rosberg, who is gaining on him. Then there is Alain Prost, 4th, Patrick Tambay, 5th, Mark Sura, 6th, and that's the World Championship pointsmen. There is Piquet closing up on Nigel Mansell, who is in 12th position, ahead of Johnny Cecotto, number 34, the Venezuelan, second in the Formula 2 European Championship last year, Cecotto, and he's driving superbly. He is in 16th place, and his teammate Roberto Guerrero is either out of the race or well down the running order at the present moment. Piquet, this is the corner where he took the lead last year, where he's very much in the lead this year. Johnny Cecotto is holding on to him extremely well. Piquet in the Brabham BMW Turbo, which in race trim he's got about at least 600 horsepower under his right foot, whereas Cecotto will have about 500 if he's lucky, and he's holding on to Nelson Piquet, the world champion of 1981. I'm looking, as you look at Piquet, across the circuit to see where Niki Lauda is and what the gap is between Niki Lauda and Rosberg, and I hope they show you as Manfred Winkelhock passes Elio De Angelis. We haven't seen anything of him before, and Danny Sullivan is shaping up to pass Elio De Angelis, who is in 13th place. Rosberg is gaining hand over fist on Niki Lauda and could soon be up into 2nd place. Well, I mustn't distract you by telling you about something you can't see. You're looking at Danny Sullivan on the right in the green Tyrrell, and I hope to goodness we get back with it. There they are. The gap is 1.1 seconds now. This is the battle for 2nd place between double world champion of 1975 and 77, Niki Lauda, and Keke Rosberg.
Yes, I think you'll find that Rosberg, if he can catch Lauda before they get to the main straight, there are about 2 or 3 corners to go, getting closer, he should be able to get a slipstream and tow past Lauda on the straight, get into that hole in the air made by the car in front. get what the Americans call a slingshot at it. They've also, incidentally, of course, closed up a little bit on Piquet while they've been backing away. This is rather boring. We'd much rather see the battle for second place. Here we are, and now here we are coming onto the main straight, and Rosberg is perfectly placed to get a little bit of a toe off Lauda and sweep past him as they come down. McLaren's very fast in the straight, but Rosberg's got the inside line for the corner, and there goes Keke Rosberg into second place.
What a magnificent drive for Keke Rosberg, who was let down by the lack of practice of his teammate. Here we see it again. Niki Lauda can see Rosberg. You see him in the mirrors. He just drives straight down. Rosberg zaps out from underneath the rear wing of Lauda's car and moves up in the process into second place, having led the race for quite a long time, having been into the pits, having lost at least a minute due to that fumbled pit stop when a blowback actually set fire to the car, and when the lack of practice. So Rosberg is starting a new lap. He is into lap 54. The race order is Piquet, who is now 48 seconds ahead of the man you are looking at, Keke Rosberg, the reigning world champion, pole position when this race started. In third position now is Lauda. Fourth is Tombe, who is now ahead of Alain Prost. And in sixth position is Marc Surer. So there's a bit of a reshuffle going on, but Keke Rosberg, undoubtedly the fastest man on the circuit. Look at how he has pulled away from Niki Lauda. I wonder, in the remaining laps, so there are only 9 laps to go, and unless Piquet, who looks serene and sure there, strikes trouble, and there's no sign of that happening at the present moment as we look at Derek Warwick coming out. And I'm starting the stopwatch. There is the board which gives the information to Nelson Piquet that he wants, that he is in the lead. There's the enormous Brazilian crowd on the left. He goes into the fourth gear Ritorno at some 145 miles an hour. Up to Pache, the left-hander named after his countryman Carlos Pache, that's third gear. Accelerate up into top, 47 seconds just over between Rosberg and Piquet. Rosberg is gaining, but not fast enough. Now into the Novata, the fourth gear, 145 mile an hour circuit bend. Now the second gear Norte, which leads into the second part of that left-hander, then into the long straight. And Arnoux and Serra are still at it for 9th position, with Derek Warwick in 8th place, with Lafitte 7th, Surer 6th, Prost 5th, Tombe 4th, Lauda 3rd, Rosberg 2nd, and Nelson Piquet the race leader. Ferrari there. And there's the gap. Look at the gap between Tombe and Prost, you see. Tombe has got ahead of Prost and is pulling away from him. And it's quite conceivable that Marc Surer will finish in a superb 5th position. Now, Chico Serra, if only from his point of view, Arnoux was not in a turbocharged Ferrari, could have got past, and Guerrero is in the picture there. Guerrero has moved up from 17th place, right behind Chico Serra, who is in 10th position. So Roberto Guerrero, the Colombian, going well, and Mo Nunn can be well pleased with his merged Theodore Ensign team setup, because they've all merged under the Teddy Yip banner, and both Cecotto and Guerrero are going extremely well. But it's Arnoux, 9th, number 28 in the Scarlet Ferrari. Chico Serra, a superb 10th in the Ford Cosworth-powered Arrows. He's standing in for Alan Jones. Chico Serra is certainly going to drive at Long Beach, and we expect Alan Jones to be back in the Arrows if Jackie Oliver can raise the money for the French Grand Prix, the 3rd Grand Prix of 1983. The gap is coming down between Piquet and Rosberg. It is now down to just over 44 seconds, but Piquet has only got 7 laps to go, including the one he is on, to win the for the second year in succession, the Brazilian Grand Prix, and there would be little likelihood, indeed no likelihood, of Piquet losing that first place this year as a result of a rule infringement. Although there is a very interesting situation this year as we continue to watch Arnoux in the Ferrari, Serra in the Arrows, and Guerrero in the Theodore, battling now for 9th position, 9th, 10th and 11th, these three. But the interesting position I was telling you about is that the new minimum weight limit of 540 kilograms for the car, plus the driver's weight, is tested in practice and at the end of the race. And if the combined weight of the car and the driver is below that which is allowed, then he's excluded. So, of course, Piquet's car will be weighed at the end of the race, but in practicing yesterday, the Brabhams were well over the minimum weight limit, and knowing Gordon Murray, the team manager and car designer, I'm quite sure that they will be, or rather Piquet's car will be well over the minimum weight limit at the end of this race. Nelson Piquet immaculately driving on his 57th lap now. The gap is down to just under 43 seconds. As we look at Salazar again being caught by Nelson Piquet. Let us hope that we don't have a repetition of the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim last year. And Piquet will be watching Eliseo Salazar very carefully indeed. Here are Danny Sullivan, who is 11th, Alain Prost, who is 5th, and Marc Surer there, right behind Alain Prost. And there is Surer trying to take Prost. Jacques Laffite is up. Jacques Laffite is up ahead of Prost. Jacques Laffite is up into 5th position. Marc Surer is up into 6th place. And out of the World Championship points goes Alain Prost. Now, well, there, in one giant leap, straight past Alain Prost goes Jacques Laffite, who looks as though he's going to finish in the points, and Marc Surer, who makes to pass Prost there, who slams the door, but Marc Surer subsequently got past, and the race order now on lap 58 out of 63 is Nelson Piquet leading by Keke Rosberg by 39 seconds and a half. Rosberg gaining, but not fast enough. Niki Lauda still in 3rd position. Patrick Tambay still 4th. Now 5th, Jacques Laffite. Now 6th, Marc Surer. Now 7th, Alain Prost. Now 8th, Derek Warwick. 9th, Arnoux. 10th, Serra. 11th, Sullivan. In 12th position, Nigel Mansell. And the leader, Nelson Piquet, has lapped everybody up to Marc Surer, because there was some unlapping, of course, when Nelson Piquet came into the pits for that short stop to take on 25 gallons of fuel and new tyres and wheels. There, the big man in the middle is Paul Roche, the chap who's looking over the man in the blue shirt, and Paul Roche is the German genius who has developed the BMW turbocharged engine that is powering the lead car of that man, Nelson Piquet, who at the end of this lap will only have 4 to go. Well, Nelson Piquet took the lead from Keke Rosberg on lap 7. He has been there ever since, including that 19-second pit stop that he had, which went absolutely immaculately. As you see, Keke Rosberg in 2nd place is gaining. It is a Brabham BMW leading. It is a Williams Ford Cosworth powered car that is 2nd. It is a Marlboro McLaren Ford Cosworth powered car that is 3rd. It is a Ferrari Turbo that is 4th. It is a Williams that is 5th. It is an Arrows that is 6th. So significantly, there out of the top 6 cars, Piquet is in a turbo, Tambay is in a turbo, and that is it. 4 out of the top 6 cars in the closing stages of the Brazilian Grand Prix are that difficult to understand expression, normally aspirated engined cars. And streaking away there, Chico Serra in the arrows. Well, where is René Arnoux? It looks as though Serra has scrambled past the Frenchman in the Ferrari, in which case he is up to 9th position. I'm missing René Arnoux, the Frenchman, in his first Grand Prix for Ferrari, because that is Chico Serra, and I think he's moved up a place. Patrick Tambay, however, is still holding his 4th position and outdistancing his teammate, and most people expected Arnoux to finish ahead of Tambay. There's the gap between Rosberg and Piquet on the right, 38.8 seconds. Piquet is on lap 59 out of 63. And we look at Roberto Guerrero, or we did look at Roberto Guerrero, because this is the race leader with his 36.5 second advantage now. He is casually, and I'm quite sure deliberately, giving time away to Keke Rosberg now, in the confident knowledge that there is no way that Rosberg can catch, let alone pass him, provided he, Piquet, can keep going at this speed. James, you've been keeping a weather eye open. Any views on the situation in the closing stages of this Brazilian Grand Prix?
Well, it's fairly professional, with the one exception that Jacques Lafitte is catching Patrick Tambay and is very much within striking distance of him now. But whether he'll be able to do anything about it against the power of the turbocharged Ferrari engine over the last few laps, they must all be pretty tired by now. It's a hard circuit that's on the drivers, physically very twisty, and although the weather has been kind in that it's a lot cooler than it was during practice, it's still very hot in those racing cars. So they'll be pretty tired. Lafitte's pretty tough though, and he can keep going, and he's about 15-20 lengths only behind Tambay, and he'll be looking for those extra points if he can possibly do it. Super race by Nelson Piquet, who we see here now just cruising to what he hopes is a well-deserved victory. He's driven extremely well, he qualified well, and as one would expect of a man of his talents and ability, he's risen fully to the occasion of his home Grand Prix, and it must be very nice to be winning it for the 2nd year running. Rosberg, well, that was really a shame with the Williams pit stop, and that blew an potentially exciting finish to the race. And of course, we very sadly lost John Watson. We don't know why. He stopped somewhere out on the circuit. Obviously a mechanical problem, one would imagine, because he was having a wonderful race and really going very well indeed. So that was a great pity to lose him. But I think we've got a pretty interesting season ahead of us. What with normally aspirated cars, turbocharged cars, pit stops here, not doing pit stops there. We've got plenty of excitement and action to come. It got a little bit processional here in the second half of the race, but we had a very exciting first half, and mainly livened up by Watson's terrific progress.
Well, Keke Rosberg there is about 35 seconds behind Piquet as he comes up to catch Roberto Guerrero, who is in 17th place. Actually, Guerrero is well down because he's 10 laps adrift. He's been into the pits. And Rosberg comes up, and Guerrero is behind Winkelhock. And Rosberg will be very anxious about getting past the Chilean and the German, because they are, of course, holding him up. But the real interest now is Lafitte catching Tambay.
Lafitte has, in fact, just caught and passed Tambay. Neither of us saw it. I don't know where he did it, but he's now away. So Lafitte has moved up into 4th place.
Marvellous news, because Jacques Lafitte, who is now, as you see, 4th ahead of Tambay 5th and Sura in 6th position, really has something to prove in this race, particularly after an awful practice period, because Lafitte only qualified 18th fastest. He's transferred from the V12 Matra-powered Ligier to the V8-powered Williams. He's had to do a lot of accommodation and adjustment, and he now, with the race distance to go at. Really seems to have got the feel of it. There's Keke Rosberg, number 1, who is second. And Jacques Laffite has charged up through the field, and a very happy Frank Williams, no doubt, will not be as happy as he would have been, of course, if Keke Rosberg here had won. But at the present moment, Frank Williams has got Keke Rosberg in second position, and he has got Jacques Laffite in fourth place. And there is Johnny Cecotto about to be lapped by Nelson Piquet, who is on his 62nd lap. So it's the last lap for one. And I'm quite sure Nelson Piquet will be saying to himself, I'm going to let this lot get on with it, because there is absolutely no need for him to try and pass them, because Prost, who is in 7th place, is nearly a full lap behind Piquet. And Cecotto, who is in 14th place, is about 4 laps behind Piquet, albeit just in front of him on the circuit. So there is Nelson. He's just got to come in and at the end of this lap to go through and start his 63rd and last tour of 3.13 miles, and he does it now. Rosberg, a magnificent drive. The men of the race, certainly Nelson Piquet, who hasn't put a wheel wrong. Keke Rosberg, well, he didn't put a wheel wrong. It wasn't his fault that the pit stop went wrong, and it would have been very interesting to hypothesize about whether Rosberg could have won if he'd had as good a pit stop as Nelson Piquet. I suspect not, in which case Rosberg is finishing in second place, where he would have finished anyway. John Watson had a magnificent drive through the field to second place, as did Niki Lauda, before Watson had to retire. Niki Lauda now in third place on this, the last lap. Jacques Laffite has driven superbly in the closing stages, and now Nelson Piquet is lapping Alain Prost, who is down to 7th place, and there is the sure sign as the Brazilian passes the crowded grandstand for the last time that he is on his way to an official victory, this time after the bitter disappointment that he suffered here at Rio last year, when, having won, got up on the rostrum with Keke Rosberg in second place and Prost third, passed out, fainted, because Piquet fainted from heat exhaustion on the rostrum last year, but took the winner's laurels, only to have them literally taken away from him for a technical infringement of the rules, nothing to do with driving, and the bitter disappointment of losing victory in his home country and 9 World Championship points. Well, that is not going to happen this time, because there is the win for Nelson Piquet, and he claps his hands to return the applause. He passed Alain Prost. Now we wait for the second place man after an equally storming, superb drive, Keke Rosberg, who will get 9 points for finishing in that second place, and he crosses the line now to take 6 World Championship points. Keke Rosberg finishes second. Now the gap before Niki Lauda.
Des technischen Regelmaß. Mit einem Sieg, erster Piquet 9 Punkte, zweiter Keke Rosberg, der Vorjahrsweltmeister 6 Punkte, dritter Niki Lauda, der Österreicher 4 Punkte, vierter Laffite 3 Punkte, fünfter Tambay 2 Punkte und sechster Suhr 1 Punkt. Für den Brabham BMW Turbo ist es der zweite Sieg, ein Dreivierteljahr nach dem ersten Sieg im Grand Prix von Kanada in Montreal. Sieger dort ebenfalls Nelson Piquet. Ein aufregender Hitze-Grand Prix von Brasilien ist zu Ende gegangen. Nelson Piquet hat ihn gewonnen vor Rosberg, Lauda, Laffite, Tambay und Suhr. Niki Lauda ebenfalls ein glänzendes Rennen gefahren, 4 Punkte für die Weltmeisterschaft. Sein bestes Rennen, sein bestes Ergebnis seit dem Grand Prix der Schweiz in Dijon. Lauda fuhr taktisch enorm clever, hat sich am Anfang auf den 11., 12. Platz zurückfallend aus den harten Positionskämpfen bei drückender Hitze und bei enormer Luftfeuchtigkeit, bei Temperaturen von weit über 40 Grad herausgehalten, hat dann im richtigen Augenblick angegriffen, hat dann die Renault, hat dann die Ferrari Turbo der Reihe nach überholt und wurde nur von einem einzigen Turbofahrzeug besiegt, nämlich dem Brabham BMW von Nelson Piquet. Geschlagen allerdings auch von Keke Rosberg, dem Weltmeister mit dem Williams. Dritter Platz für Niki Lauda, was Das Problem gewesen ist möglicherweise Schwierigkeit mit den Reifen. Das war von außen natürlich nicht ganz zu sehen, aber es war unübersehbar. Keke Rosberg, ebenfalls mit einem Ford Cosworth-Motor, hatte nach dem Boxenstopp weitaus bessere Reifen und konnte also weitaus schneller fahren. Nelson Piquet gewinnt vor Keke Rosberg, der gleiche Zieleinlauf wie vor einem Jahr in Rio Jacarepaguá. Piquet und Rosberg, beide waren an den Boxen. Der erste Fahrer, der den Grand Prix ohne Boxenstopp durchgefahren ist, Niki Lauda, an dritter Stelle mit einem Rückstand von etwa 52 Sekunden, also weniger als eine Minute, auf den Sieger Nelson Piquet. 6 Autos nur in der gleichen Runde, Piquet, Rosberg, Lauda, Laffite, Tambay und Zura, je eine Runde Rückstand Prost, Warwick, Serra, Arnoux, Sullivan, 2 Runden Rückstand Menzo, 3 Runden Rückstand De Angelis und Cecotto, 4 Runden zurück Salazar und Winkelhock und an der 17. Stelle mit 10 Runden Rückstand nicht mehr gewertet Roberto Guerrero. Piquet aus seiner Auslaufrunde zurück und jetzt natürlich gleich von den Brabham und BMW-Mechanikern stürmisch bejubelt und als Sieger begrüßt. Ein großartiger Sieg für Piquet in seinem Heimat-Grand Prix von Brasilien. Es ist der bereits 8. Grand Prix-Sieg für Piquet. Damit hat Jackie X und Dennis Palm in der ewigen Grand Prix-Siegerliste erreicht. Das offizielle Ergebnis: Piquet gewinnt mit 1 Stunde, 48 Minuten und 27,7 Sekunden vor Keke Rosberg auf Williams Rückstand 20,6 Sekunden. Dritter Niki Lauda Rückstand 51,8. Vierter Jacques Laffite 1,13. Fünfter Patrick Tambay 1,18. Sechster Max Zura 1,18,3 hat den 5. Platz gegen Patrick Tambay, also nur um eine Zehntelsekunde verpasst. 7. ist Prost, 8. Warwick, 9. Serra, 10. Arnoux und 11. Sullivan, all diese mit einer Runde Rückstand. Es werden jetzt selbstverständlich die Autos nachkontrolliert, sie werden sicherlich auch nachgewogen. Die Autos müssen 640 Kilo Mindestgewicht haben. Hier sehen Sie Nelson Piquet wesentlich frischer als bei der Siegerehrung vor einem Jahr. Ich weiß nicht, ob es sich ausgeht für uns, dass wir noch auf Sendung bleiben, um Ihnen die Siegerehrung zu zeigen. Hier haben Sie auf alle Fälle die 9 Formel-1-Autos alle nebeneinander stehend aus der Vogelperspektive. Und hier können Sie sehr, sehr deutlich beobachten, welche verschiedenen Formen man in den einzelnen Teams für die neuen Formel-1-Autos gefunden hat. Niki Lauda darf mit dem Saisonbeginn zufrieden sein. 9. im Training, 3. im Rennen, nur von einem einzigen Turbo-Fahrzeug geschlagen, dem Brabham BMW von Nelson Piquet. Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, liebe Motorsportfreunde in Österreich, das war's live aus Rio Jacarepaguá vom Grand Prix von Brasilien. Darf ich wiederholen, Piquet gewinnt vor Rosberg und Lauda. Piquet und Rosberg beide an den Boxen gewesen zum Nachtanken und Reifenwechseln. Lauda, der erste Pilot im Klassement, der den Grand Prix ohne Stopp durchgefahren ist. 4 Punkte der Weltmeisterschaft für den Österreicher. Für sie geht's weiter heute in 14 Tagen mit dem Grand Prix von Amerika in Long Beach. Heute in 14 Tagen, spät am Abend, großer Preis von Amerika, Long Beach, der zweite Lauf zur diesjährigen Weltmeisterschaft. Bis dahin darf ich mich von Ihnen verabschieden und wünsche Ihnen noch einen sehr, sehr schönen Sonntagabend. Danke fürs Zuschauen und fürs Zuhören und auf Wiedersehen.